From here on out, they would be facing the Zone Consortium's regular troops. These regular troops had been put through systematic military training and had shot countless targets before. The only thing was they had never officially been on the battlefield before. Compared with the bandits they faced earlier, these troops were on a completely different level. According to Zhang Xiaoman, the troops of the Zone Consortium were not that much weaker than those from Fortress 178. The only difference was their experience and ability to adapt on the battlefield. There was also a difference in what they had learned during their desensitization training. Some of the Zone Consortium's new recruits would throw up, get disgusted, and become fearful when they saw intestines spilling out and legs getting broken. However, the veterans of Fortress 178 would not. At the forward operating base, Zhou Yinglong got the orderlies to hand out pen and paper to everyone. "What's this for?" Ren Xiaosu asked. Zhang Xiaoman raised his head and gave him a look. "To write your will." "Will?" Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. On the surface, it's to let everyone write down whatever they want to say. If they don't make it back after a battle, the administration division will deliver the letters to their family. You can consider it a letter to pass down any instructions after your death. If the soldiers manage to return, they can go to the administration division and redeem their letters, Zhang Xiaoman explained. "But we just call this thing a will." "That sounds like bad luck," Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. "There's nothing unlucky about it." Zhang Xiaoman shook his head. "Those who step onto the battlefield should be able to make light of death. Actually, we didn't understand it at first, but after fighting so many enemies outside Fortress 178, we're numb to it." "Then who are you writing to?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "My parents," Zhang Xiaoman said, "and my wife too." "You're married. Listen to what you're saying. I'm almost 30 years old." Zhang Xiaoman chuckled and said, "Can't I have a wife?" Ren Xiaosu felt a little embarrassed. He did not really understand the concept of marriage, so he assumed everyone else was single like him. Thinking about it, since Zhang Xiaoman was the company commander, he couldn't be that young. "What does being married feel like?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "It's not too bad, I guess. There's always a hot meal waiting at home," Zhang Xiaoman said as he wrote out his will. "Are you happy?" Ren Xiaosu asked. Zhang Xiaoman chuckled and looked up. "You must be hankering for love, huh? Why are you so interested in this?" "Let me put it this way. I've been happily married for 1 year." "That sounds pretty nice," Ren Xiaosu said. Beside him, Xiao Xiaochen laughed loudly and said, "You don't get it. He's been married for 10 years. Ren Xiaosu was speechless. Then Zhang Xiaoman asked, "Aren't you going to write your letter?" Ren Xiaosu hesitated for a moment. "I don't know who I should write it to." All the warriors of the razor-sharp company fell silent. They realized this was probably the reason Ren Xiaosu had fought so desperately against the Zone Consortium. After leaving the forward operating base, they could only travel on foot. In the battle plan, they would arrive at the outskirts of Shishuan village on the 3rd day. But from the moment they stepped out of the forward operating base, they had to be on full alert. This was in case the Zone Consortium's troops had set up an ambush near Shishuan village. Ren Xiaosu asked, "Shishuan village is located on a plain. Although its outskirts are forest, it should be quite difficult for us to break through into Shishuan village, right?" A rifle in his hands, Zhang Xiaoman explained, "We'll use the mortars to attack first. Their range of 3 kilometers is enough for us to stay outside the range of the enemy's HMGs. Once we create an opening, we can move on to urban combat." "Are you confident?" Ren Xiaosu asked skeptically. "If that doesn't work out, we'll get the artillery troops behind to take out their large-caliber artillery and bombard them." Zhang Xiaoman said, "There's definitely a way." On the night of the 2nd day, the sound of gunfire rang out from both sides. From where the razor-sharp company was, heavy machine guns could be heard firing in the distance. Zhang Xiaoman frowned. Second company and third company have been ambushed. We should be careful too. Everyone had expected the Zone Consortium to set up an ambush outside of Sichuan village, so it was not a surprise. Second company and third company were probably prepared for this as well. A gunshot suddenly rang out in front of them as well, but it sounded like it came from far away. Zhang Xiaoman and the others instinctively took cover behind a tree by the side of the road, but no bullets flew at them. That's strange. Who's firing? Zhang Xiaoman asked in confusion. Let's continue moving forward. But after the razor-sharp company advanced several hundred meters, they still did not reach where they thought the enemy was. There were not even any gunshots anymore. Something's not right. Zhang Xiaoman frowned and said, "We're the ones taking the main path. Is the Zone Consortium trying to mislead us? Fu Rao, Lin Ping'an, I want the two of you to take point and scout." It was not that Zhang Xiaoman liked ordering Fu Rao and Lin Ping'an around when there was danger, but that there had to be designated scouts in the company. When a dangerous situation arose, these scouts would be tasked with charging ahead first. This was just a division of responsibilities. Fu Rao and Lin Ping'an crouch walked through the forest and felt their way forward. However, before they could get far, the two of them turned back. "Captain, something's wrong. The people ambushing us are all dead. They've been wiped out." There was only a single platoon manning the MG position, and all 30 of the soldiers there died just a while ago. "They were still bleeding when we got near them," Lin Ping'an added. Zhang Xiaoman looked suspiciously at Ren Xiaosu. "You did this?" "No." Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "Ain't I right here?" "That's true." The soldiers of the razor-sharp company were also a little stunned. "Who helped us take out that MG nest? And their throats were slit? Only a supernatural being is capable of that, right?" Everyone was puzzled. A mysterious supernatural being had suddenly appeared on the battlefield and done good deeds for them? The soldiers of the razor-sharp company were not fools. This was clearly done by Ren Xiaosu, but they did not have any evidence of it. To be honest, everyone still did not know what kind of power Ren Xiaosu had. Zhang Xiaoman tried to test Ren Xiaosu again. "It really wasn't you." "It really wasn't me," Ren Xiaosu said innocently. Zhang Xiaoman came to the machine gun position where he found a corpse and touched the area between the man's thumb and index finger. "There's no thick calluses, so they shouldn't be trained soldiers. This group was probably put together with refugees or soldiers from the private troops. They're just cannon fodder." Jiao Xiaochen said, "It looks like the Zone Consortium is trying to use cannon fodder to wear us out first." "Predictable." Zhang Xiaoman said, "There won't be a lack of enemy troops in Sichuan village. A conservative estimate says there's over 1,000 of them. But the good news is that most of the enemies we'll encounter should be very weak. They might not even have a proper understanding of what targeting range is." Sichuan village was not a very important place to begin with. The Zone Consortium had only garrisoned it because they wanted to be a pain in the ass to Fortress 178's forward operating base. However, this was not something to be happy about because he had learned to be this way through someone's suffering. The level of enlightenment for every individual was equivalent to the depth of their anguish. Second company and third company's positions were some distance away, with the gap between each of the three companies maintained at around 2 kilometers. Meanwhile, Ren Xiaosu's shadow clone was only effective within a 1 kilometer radius, so he could not send it out to help them. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaoman said, "Continue marching. We're still a day away from Sichuan village. Don't let up. We might encounter another ambush at any time." The Zone Consortium had placed the refugees and private troops at the front lines. With just a single heavy machine gun, they could make Fortress 178's front-line troops suffer heavy losses. This was a kind of bizarreness that only happened in the era of firearms and explosives. As they marched, Zhang Xiaoman asked Ren Xiaosu, I've actually been quite curious for a while, but you're not very interested in getting promoted, are you? Ren Xiaosu said, after the war, I might be heading to the Central Plains. Wait. Zhang Xiaoman suddenly felt that something was not right. You're saying you'll leave Fortress 178 after the war? That's right. Ren Xiaosu said, I have to go find my family. The day before yesterday when y'all were writing your wills, everyone had loved ones that they could write to. But when I wanted to write mine, I realized that there was no one for me to write to. Is the Zone Consortium the cause of this? Zhang Xiaoman asked. Yes, Ren Xiaosu said calmly. Zhang Xiaoman realized it was no wonder Ren Xiaosu was so ruthless towards the Zone Consortium. He even volunteered to lead the main attack for their mission. So it turned out that he actually had a grudge against them. Although Ren Xiaosu did not usually show any anguish, everyone could clearly feel the loneliness emanating from him. For example, when everyone gathered around the campfire, Ren Xiaosu would sit by himself and look up into the starry sky. Or when everyone was laughing and chatting after a meal, Ren Xiaosu would lean against a big tree and look out into the distance. No one knew what was on his mind. When Ren Xiaosu came down from Mt. Guan drenched in blood, Zhang Xiaoman had clearly sensed his rage dissipating. Did you kill the bandits on Mt. Guan? Zhang Xiaoman was referring to the main forces who had disappeared from Mt. Guan. No, Ren Xiaosu shook his head. My little bro killed them. Zhang Xiaoman choked a little. Ren Xiaosu was already this ferocious, yet he had a younger brother who could wipe out an entire mountain of bandits? What kind of a family was this? Of course, Ren Xiaosu did not explain much. But if you leave, wouldn't the commander have placed you in the razor-sharp company for nothing? Zhang Xiaoman asked. Does the commander have other intentions by putting me in the razor-sharp company? I was the one who asked to be posted to the most dangerous unit, Ren Xiaosu wondered. It's nothing, Zhang Xiaoman said. He felt that everyone might have misunderstood the entire situation. How could someone who was going to leave Fortress 178 after the war become the commander of the fortress? Or did Commander Zhang have other ideas? Throughout their journey, there were a total of 3 ambush points. Without exception, the heavy machine guns were all taken out by someone. Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked, it's not like Zhang Jinglan has any combat skills, so why do all y'all listen to him? This doubt had always been on Ren Xiaosu's mind. This group of gruff men from the northwest respected strong people the most. Although Zhang Jinglan was very capable and had saved many people in the past, that should not be enough to give him command over this forlorn hope, right? Zhang Xiaoman shook his head. I don't know, but someone said the commander should never be made to bear arms. Killing others is our job. All the commander has to do is to say who he wants us to kill and how to kill them. When Zhang Xiaoman used the radio to report to Zhou Yinglong that they had arrived at the rendezvous point, Zhou Yinglong was shocked. 2nd Company and 3rd Company are still on their way. How'd you get there so quickly? Did you encounter any ambushes on the way? The ambushes we encountered were all taken out by a mysterious supernatural being, Zhang Xiaoman said honestly. We don't know who did it either. It wasn't Ren Xiaosu? Zhou Yinglong asked. We also suspected it could have been him, but he was with us the whole time. Zhang Xiaoman said, Battalion Commander, should we go and provide support to 2nd Company and 3rd Company? Negative. The companies have their own routes to take. We can't mess up the plan. Zhou Yinglong said, they're not under a lot of pressure either, so they'll only be delayed by a bit. The enemies who ambushed them aren't experienced. Then what should we do now? Zhang Xiaoman asked. Familiarize yourselves with the terrain first, and make preparations to capture Shishuan village while waiting to rendezvous with 2nd Company and 3rd Company. The other fighting forces of the Forward Strike Battalion will be arriving the day after tomorrow. Then Zhou Yinglong ended their conversation. Zhang Xiaoman ordered, 1 ST, 2nd, and 3rd platoons, you get a short break 4th, 5th, and 6th platoons, follow me and start building some simple fortifications to prevent our enemies from coming out of Sichuan village and ambushing us." As a matter of fact, even though Zhang Xiaoman was always seen scrounging at the forward operating base and constantly requesting more armaments, he became a fully qualified company commander once he got onto the battlefield. He would unequivocally handle whatever needed to be done during battle. Through the dense forest, Ren Xiaosu was looking at Sichuan village in the distance. The abandoned town's high-rise buildings had long collapsed, and all that remained were the tattered two-story buildings. Zhang Xiaoman said from next to him, "Even the concrete and metal that humans relied on for survival is no match for the effects of time. As long as there's maintenance done on them, those tall buildings will all collapse in a matter of 200 years. In another 500 years, there won't be any buildings left standing here. The cities of humans are not as sturdy as we imagined them to be. As long as we're still around, that's good enough," Ren Xiaosu remarked. Zhang Xiaoman was stunned before smiling and saying, "That's absolutely right. It's fine as long as we're still around." As they were quite close to Sichuan village, they could not start a campfire. Otherwise, they would end up becoming targets for artillery fire from the town. Ren Xiaosu expressed his understanding when he heard this reason. Then, as he had nothing better to do in the middle of the night, he ran far away and started a few campfires out there. As expected, just as the fire burned bright, the artillery from Sichuan village locked onto the locations where the fires were burning and commenced a heavy bombardment. Zhang Xiaoman and the others who were sitting behind some sandbags were confused when they heard the artillery fire. They were wondering who the enemies in town were attacking when Ren Xiaosu came back after a while. Zhang Xiaoman asked, "Where'd you go?" "Oh." Ren Xiaosu explained, "Didn't you say that campfires would attract the artillery? I went out to start some campfires. I thought that it'd be good if I could make them waste their shells. The troops in this Sichuan village are an isolated force, so they definitely can't restock their ammo. Who knows? We might be able to reduce the number of casualties on our side this way." Ren Xiaosu was just giving it a try and did not really think he would succeed. Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaoman was thinking about what he had just done. He wondered how Ren Xiaosu's mind even worked in the first place. Only a small number of commanders could remain calm in the chaos and take the right course of action. And it was these commanders who would emerge victorious from a battle. Some would then go on to become famous military leaders. The artillery fire quickly put the 2nd Company and 3rd Company, who were currently storming the machine gun positions, on high alert. When they heard the sound of the bombardment, they thought the razor-sharp company had already started the attack on the town. Importantly, the battle plan was for the 3 companies to rendezvous before launching an attack on the town. It was practically impossible for a single company to capture Sichuan village, and the casualty count would definitely be disastrous as well. Both 2nd Company and 3rd Company called into Zhou Yinglong at the rear in unison. They were hoping he could stop the recklessness of the razor-sharp company. Although the razor-sharp company had just accomplished great things by taking Mountain Fours, there were 2 things in a battle that all soldiers were afraid of. One was cowardice, and the other was arrogance. An army cocksure of its invincibility was doomed to defeat. When Zhou Yinglong heard about the situation at the front line, he got anxious. He quickly found a radio operator to contact the razor-sharp company in the hopes they could still get through to them. In the end, the call went through very quickly. Zhou Yinglong said anxiously, "Did you guys start attacking Sichuan village already?" "Zhang Xiaoman, are you crazy? Didn't I tell you to wait until you joined up with 2nd, 3rd companies before launching an attack? If your razor-sharp company suffers heavy casualties, I'll hold you responsible." Zhang Xiaoman said innocently, "Battalion commander, we're eating right now. We didn't start attacking Sichuan village." Zhou Yinglong was taken aback. "Are you sure? Then what's with the sound of the bombardment?" Zhou Yinglong could still hear the artillery bombardment on the other end while holding the receiver to his ear. Zhang Xiaoman patiently explained, I told Ren Xiaosu earlier that since we were very close to Shishuan village, we shouldn't light any campfires or risk ending up as targets for the enemy. In the end, he ran off to a faraway place and started many campfires. He said he wanted to make the enemy at Shishuan village waste some of their shells. It went silent in the call. Zhou Yinglong had not expected a situation like this. He said in a daze, "Where's Ren Xiaosu? Oh yeah, where's Ren Xiaosu?" Zhang Xiaoman looked around but could not find Ren Xiaosu. Then he saw another group of campfires lighting up in the distance. He said numbly, he went out to start a few more campfires. But this time, the Zone Consortium's troops in Shishuan village seemed to have realized that something was amiss. They gradually stopped their bombardment. But after waiting half the night, Zhang Xiaoman did not see another campfire light up. Meanwhile, Ren Xiaosu had also not returned yet. He muttered to Jiao Xiaochen, "I wonder what Ren Xiaosu's up to now." When dawn was about to break, Ren Xiaosu finally came back. Zhang Xiaoman leaned forward and sniffed. He could still smell gunpowder on Ren Xiaosu. "Where have you been? When I saw that second company and third company still hadn't arrived even after waiting for so long, I thought I'd go help them," Ren Xiaosu explained. Zhang Xiaoman froze. He realized he had underestimated Ren Xiaosu's ferocity. He still had the strength to go and help his allies. As they were speaking, second company and third company finally arrived. The commander of second company was still wondering as they walked over, "I wonder who helped us destroy that MG position with a grenade." Zhang Xiaoman glanced over at Ren Xiaosu. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu was squatting behind the bushes and quietly watching the silent Shishuan village in the distance. Zhang Xiaoman did not say anything else. He turned to second company and third company and said, "Why have you only just arrived?" Both second company and third company were puzzled. "Didn't y'all encounter any ambushes last night?" "We did." Zhang Xiaoman said, "If our razor-sharp company can be stopped with just a machine gun, we're willing to give up our name of razor-sharp to y'all." The faces of both second company and third company's commanders darkened. Zhang Xiaoman was too fucking arrogant recently. Was it really that easy for y'all to take out the MG nests? Second company's commander said unhappily, "The trenches they dug were so effective that even our mortars couldn't cause any damage to them." Zhang Xiaoman, don't get too cocky. We don't care about getting the razor-sharp name. What the second company and third company's commanders did not know was that the razor-sharp company did not even encounter any living enemies in the course of their march. However, this did not stop Zhang Xiaoman from full-on mocking them. "Don't stray from the subject," Zhang Xiaoman said, "rest up during the day. We'll start by launching an aggressive attack on Shishuan village at midnight. Our razor-sharp company will be responsible for creating an opening, so y'all better not drag us back." The moment he said that, the commanders of second company and third company got so angry they nearly lost their appetites. However, this was the culture at Fortress 178. As long as you were good at fighting, it wouldn't matter how tough your words sounded. Even though second company and third company were angered by this, they had to accept it. During their rest, all they could think of was how to win back their reputation during the attack on Shishuan village. The commander of second company quietly held a meeting with his officers. "I don't want any of us losing our reason later just to prove our worth, understand?" The officers said, "Understood, sir." The company commander's responsibility was not only to lead in a battle, but also to know when to remind their soldiers to be cool-headed. Fighting a war was a matter of life and death, so one must not allow their emotions to rule their heads. But immediately after the commander of second company was done speaking to his men, he heard Zhang Xiaoman loudly say, "Everyone, don't be in a hurry when attacking Shishuan village tonight. It's fine even if we allow second company and third company to get the credit. We're a team, after all, so our razor-sharp company shouldn't be hogging all the contributions, right?" This time, second company's commander nearly vomited blood. It was normal to have some friendly bickering before a battle. They were all veterans with a lot of battlefield experience and knew how to put aside their emotions when going into battle. Zhang Xiaoman was on very good terms with 2nd Company and 3rd Company. Otherwise, he would not dare to talk nonsense like this before a battle. The commander of 2nd Company turned around and looked in the direction of the razor-sharp company. He saw Ren Xiaosu sitting alone with his eyes closed. Someone in the company muttered, "That's Ren Xiaosu, right? I heard he scaled a 700-meter high cliff with his bare hands during the attack on Mt. Ding Yuan. Are you serious?" A 2nd Company soldier asked skeptically. "Even Battalion Commander Zhou couldn't do that, right?" When Jiao Xiaochen heard the discussion about Ren Xiaosu and 2nd Company, he remarked, "When Ren Xiaosu came back early in the morning, he said he went to help you guys. Weren't y'all asking who helped you to take out the MG nests?" "It was him." The commander of 2nd Company was stunned. Jiao Xiaochen would not lie about such a thing. "I heard he's a supernatural being, right? What's his power?" Jiao Xiaochen went silent for a moment. "We don't know either." For a second, all of the soldiers at the camp looked at Ren Xiaosu either intentionally or unintentionally. They all had the same thought on their minds: is this the person Commander Zhang chose? No wonder that the commander chose him. The effective range of heavy machine guns tended to usually be between 1,000 and 2,000 meters. Some machine guns could even reach a range of 3,000 meters or 5,000 meters. However, once the range exceeded 500 meters, most shots from a machine gun would lose accuracy. Whether or not they could hit someone purely depended on luck. Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaoman had set up some mortar positions 2.9 kilometers away from Shishuan village, the maximum range at which they were effective. He was planning to destroy the buildings on the periphery of the village first. They did not need the mortars to inflict a lot of casualties. All they needed was for them to bring down the buildings and turn them into rubble. That would create a natural defensive barrier for Fortress 178's soldiers to get close to Shishuan village. Ren Xiaosu looked at Jiao Xiaochen skillfully adjusting the mortar's angle. He suddenly asked, "Where's the most terrifying part of urban combat?" Zhang Xiaoman thought for a moment and said, "Every room with a window could be turned into an enemy position." "Then why don't we just demolish all the buildings and flatten them?" Ren Xiaosu said. Zhang Xiaoman chuckled. "You make it sound so easy, but how are we going to achieve that? How many mortar rounds would we have to waste for that?" Ren Xiaosu stopped talking. He was hesitating about whether he should use the steam locomotive to flatten the buildings. It would definitely be painful for him, but he felt that such a method would be very useful. After all, the old buildings couldn't withstand the impact of the steam locomotive. What was impossible for Zhang Xiaoman and the others was only one of the many methods that Ren Xiaosu could choose to use. But after some thought, Ren Xiaosu realized this was not his only way to launch an attack on the enemy. It would be better to choose a more conservative approach. If the steam locomotive crashed into the buildings, he might just vomit blood again from the pain. At this moment, Jiao Xiaochen said at the side, "Captain, all preparations are complete." Zhang Xiaoman glanced at 2nd Company before saying softly, "Other than Jiao Xiaochen and those who are operating the mortars to provide cover, the rest are to advance with me. Jiao Xiaochen, keep this in mind. Don't allow the enemies in Shishuan village to reinforce their defenses on the periphery. Attack them with everything you've got." Right now, Zhang Xiaoman was most worried about the required time for them to charge 3 kilometers. In that duration, the enemy was fully capable of reorganizing themselves to stop them from entering the town. Therefore, the accuracy of Jiao Xiaoken's mortar bombardment would become crucial in their charge. Jiao Xiaochen was put in a difficult spot. "Captain, it's too far. Furthermore, when we fire our mortars, the enemies will also fire back at us. We'll need to keep changing our positions." "I don't care about that." Zhang Xiaoman said, "Our lives are in your hands." Then Zhang Xiaoman led his men forward. Ren Xiaosu followed close behind him while Jiao Xiaochen was left with a problem at the rear. The firing of mortars whooshed from the back. The razor-sharp company had deployed 6 mortars, and they were firing at Shishuan village all at once. After firing, Jiao Xiaochen shouted anxiously, "Run! Switch locations and fire again!" The soldiers from razor-sharp company adroitly carried the mortars and ran off, in case the bombardment from Shishuan village turned them into live targets. Ren Xiaosu wondered, won't they have to readjust the angle and range when they get to another spot? That'll delay the covering fire, won't it? No, Zhang Xiaoman said, that's Jiao Xiaokan's expertise. No one in the entire army is better at it than him. Ordinarily, mortars would never be used in this way, because every time they shifted positions, it would take an extremely long time to recalibrate the trajectory of fire. However, Jiao Xiaokan's expertise enabled the razor-sharp company to become this mobile. Many of the other fighting forces had tried to recruit Jiao Xiaochen into their ranks, but they were all stopped by Zhou Yinglong. As they were talking, the second wave of mortar rounds hit Shishuan village. Ren Xiaosu watched as the buildings on the periphery of Shishuan village collapsed into rubble, forming cover for the razor-sharp company. Meanwhile, the artillery in the town started firing at the suspected area where the mortar fire was coming from. But by then, Jiao Xiaochen had already fled with his men. This was a great strategy, indeed. Ren Xiaosu asked, Jiao Xiaochen is an expert. How did he master it? If you're afraid to die, you can train hard, Zhang Xiaoman panted. As soon as the enemies in Shishuan village saw the mortar bombardment, their soldiers immediately moved towards the periphery and tried to re-establish a defensive line. But the platoon Jiao Xiaochen was leading had set up another mortar shelling. The third wave of artillery fire happened to be right in the path of the enemy's movements and intercepted them. Back when the soldiers of the razor-sharp company were eating and bragging to each other, someone said how great it would be if all of them could become supernatural beings. Jiao Xiaochen said at that time that if he were a supernatural being, he would definitely find it very easy to lug the mortar around. Zhang Xiaoman, Jiao Xiaochen, and the others did not have any superpowers. They had become an integral part of the razor-sharp company in the forward strike battalion purely through their hard work. Zhang Xiaoman and the others were approaching the rubble. He looked up ahead at Shishuan village and saw a small, 2-story building still standing not too far away. However, he could not make out if there were any enemies behind the dark window. If there were a heavy machine gun nest set up inside that building, many of the razor-sharp company's soldiers would probably have to die here. But were they going to stop fighting just because people would die? Taking casualties in war was unavoidable. He lowered his voice and whisper shouted, "Those who aren't afraid to die, attack with me." Watch out for that window on the second floor. Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly saw Ren Xiaosu hold a grenade in his hand and extend it into a shadow. A second later, an explosion burst from that second floor window that he was worrying about a moment ago. With a loud boom, a huge cloud of dust was blown out of the window while cries of the Zone Consortium soldiers came from the inside. Zhang Xiaoman was stunned. What kind of fucking power was that? But Ren Xiaosu did not stop moving. He ran towards the rebel as he said, "If you think there's a spot where it might be dangerous, tell me. As long as it's within a kilometer, let me handle it." Zhang Xiaoman was shocked. Urban warfare was at its most dangerous when it was too difficult to deal with enemies hiding behind windows during a close-quarters fight. But with Ren Xiaosu's power, it was as though he was a born nemesis for enemies in urban combat. No matter how well one hid, as long as enemies were suspected to be in a building, they would be greeted with a dropped grenade. In the past, the razor-sharp company would always have a hard time when they had to fight in urban settings, because there wasn't really a good strategy for such battles. All they could rely on was Jiao Xiaokan's long-range cover fire to suppress the enemies for them. But things were different now. They no longer had to be afraid of anything. Zhang Xiaoman suddenly asked, "Wait, was it because of you that we didn't find any grenades at Mt Guan and Mt Dingyuan?" Ren Xiaosu was about to explain when Zhang Xiaoman said, "Don't explain. In the future, you don't have to hide the grenades we seize anymore. They're all yours to keep. They could take out machine gun positions easily, as well as freely engage in urban warfare without breaking a sweat. If they encountered any defensive bunkers when attacking high ground, they would not have to worry either. The enemy's fortifications on land were paper-thin in Ren Xiaosu's presence. Zhang Xiaoman said excitedly to Ren Xiaosu, "From now on, whoever tries to take any grenades from you is as good as trying to take my life." Ren Xiaosu was stunned. "That's not nice, is it?" As he spoke, he stuffed a second grenade behind another dark window. The Zone Consortium soldiers who were about to sweep their machine guns were blown out of the window by the grenade. Curious, Zhang Xiaosu asked, "Xiaosu, where do you even keep these grenades? I don't see any hand grenades on you. Is this 1 power or 2 powers?" "Serious," Ren Xiaosu answered, "I only have 1 power, and it's to open up a dark passage to a dimension with a small storage area I can put stuff in." Honestly, Ren Xiaosu felt this explanation was very illogical. After all, the shadow door did not have the ability to open another dimension. However, even the supernatural beings themselves did not fully understand superpowers. Even if he made up something to fool an ordinary person, the other party would still believe them no matter how unbelievable it was. After all, these were already superpowers they were talking about, so why would they be based on logic? Zhang Xiaoman was startled by Ren Xiaosu's explanation. He called over his platoon commanders and said to them, "Remove all the grenades on everyone and hand them over to Ren Xiaosu. We're going to start advancing in the direction of the artillery. Ren Xiaosu, I want you to blow up all of the arty." Ren Xiaosu had already saved more than a dozen boxes of grenades from the bandit lairs, with each box containing 20 grenades. Meanwhile, the soldiers of the Razor Sharp Company were given 3 grenades each as standard issue by the Supply Division of Fortress 178. There were a total of 184 people in Razor Sharp Company. Excluding the platoon that stayed behind to man the mortars, there were a total of 154 people on the front line. The number of grenades they had numbered several hundred. So when Ren Xiaosu grouped all of them together in his storage space, he felt so nervous his scalp went numb. The Razor Sharp Company was sneaking through the rubble as they advanced. Whenever there was a spot where the enemy could be hiding, Zhang Xiaoman would remind Ren Xiaosu to bomb it from a distance. On the flanks, 2nd Company and 3rd Company had similarly infiltrated into Shishuan village. They could only watch helplessly as the Razor Sharp Company left them far behind in their wake. 2nd Company and 3rd Company's mission was to provide cover for the Razor Sharp Company on both flanks. But from the looks of it, the Razor Sharp Company did not look like they needed any support. The exploding of grenades could be heard everywhere inside Shishuan village. What was even more surprising was that the Razor Sharp Company did not even encounter a proper enemy. What the hell was going on? The buildings still standing in Shishuan village stretched for up to 6 kilometers, and the Razor Sharp Company had only taken half an hour so far to advance 500 meters in. They had planned to take this town within a fortnight, but it seemed that the Razor Sharp Company would only need 2 to 3 days to clear out the entire town now. However, Zhang Xiaoman did not want to get greedy and risk advancing farther. Their enemies on the flanks were still there. If 2nd Company and 3rd Company could not keep up with their progress, they might very well find themselves surrounded by the enemies in Shishuan village. And there was also the problem of whether there was a sniper in this town. On top of that, no one knew whether there might be any traps hidden underground. Thus, it was better to wait for the other 2 companies to join up with them first before continuing the assault. Zhang Xiaoman suddenly raised his arm and shouted for the troops to change their route. They were going to head towards 2nd Company to provide support, with Ren Xiaosu in charge of blowing up enemies while the rest provided cover for him. They would also have to verify that the enemies in the buildings they had passed by were all dead. Although some enemies had been blown up by the grenades, they were still looking to take the fight to the Razor Sharp Company to the bitter end. If the enemy ambushed them at this time, that would be horrible. The number of people who died from fighting in this tough battle wasn't the horrible fact, but that their carelessness could lead to the death of comrades. The former was unavoidable, but the latter was a matter of attitude. Second Company was still having trouble dealing with a machine gun position behind a window at an intersection. Suddenly, an explosion rang out behind that window, and the enemy soldiers and machine gun were blown out from it. When the commander of Second Company looked up, he saw Zhang Xiaoman waving to them. "Catch up! We're gonna provide support for Third Company." A soldier from Second Company mumbled, "What does he think urban warfare is? He's moving so freely." By midnight, the razor-sharp Company, Second Company and Third Company were finally assembled together in an empty building. The soldiers upstairs from the razor-sharp Company had set up several heavy machine gun nests and were on high alert to their surroundings. Downstairs, Zhang Xiaoman was holding a meeting with the commanders of Second Company and Third Company. "Hand over your remaining TNT and grenades to us." The commander of Second Company turned unhappy. "Hand them over to all y'all? Then what are we going to use?" Meanwhile, the commander of Third Company was worried about something else. "All of us are in this building. What if the enemy bombs this place? Wouldn't we be annihilated right here?" "Don't worry," Zhang Xiaoman said calmly, "all the artillery in Shishuan village has been destroyed by our razor-sharp Company." "What the hell are you talking about?" The face of the Second Company's commander darkened. "The artillery positions are still at least 700 meters away from here. Tell me, how could you possibly have destroyed them all?" "That's confidential, so how can I tell you?" Zhang Xiaoman laughed. "I've gathered you all here for nothing other than telling you how ferocious our razor-sharp Company is. Grenades are a divine weapon when put into our hands. It's a waste to let y'all hold on to them." The commander of Second Company thought of how difficult it was to bring everyone together at one point. So it was just because he wanted to ask for their ammunition? By now, they had advanced about 2 kilometers into Shishuan village. With still a lot of enemies remaining on the northern side, there would be quite a few tough battles left to fight. So Zhang Xiaoman made Ren Xiaosu count the number of grenades they had left and realized there were not enough. The eyes of Third Company's commander darted around as he suddenly said, "Zhang Xiaoman, be honest and tell us what you want the grenades for. Earlier, I saw one of the enemy's MG nests get destroyed before you even arrived. What exactly is going on?" Zhang Xiaoman turned around and looked at Ren Xiaosu, seeing him nod his head. Only then did Zhang Xiaoman say, "Ren Xiaosu's power lets him throw grenades anywhere he wants within a 1 kilometer radius. It won't drop more than a meter from where he wants it to land. So y'all understand now, right? Hand the grenades to us and let the razor-sharp Company clear a path forward. When the time comes, we can all share the credit." The commander of Second Company was still reluctant. "If we give you all our grenades, what are we going to? Li Haikan, you better think this through." Zhang Xiaoman cut him off. "We're in a war now, and those machine gun bullets are whisking past everyone blindly. Is your Second Company's mission more important, or are the lives of your soldiers more important? Besides, by handing over the grenades to us and letting the razor-sharp Company forge a path ahead, the mission can still be completed all the same." The commander of Second Company hesitated before finally saying with a sigh, "All right, you can have them all. We won't take a share of the credit either. Whatever really takes place should be reported as such. Our Second Company doesn't want leftovers." Zhang Xiaoman happily gave him a thumbs up and said, "All right, Second Company, you sure are staunch." Then Zhang Xiaoman turned to the commander of Third Company. "So is Third Company just as staunch?" The commander of Third Company was annoyed. "Zhang Xiaoman, stop fucking rubbing it in. When it was time to fight the tough battles, they would fight the tough battles. But if there was a better choice, they would definitely prioritize the survival of their troops. Don't worry one bit." Zhang Xiaoman said with a smile, "We're sister units, so why would we do something like that? Come, Ren Xiaosu, Put away these grenades. We'll continue attacking after night falls. Ren Xiaosu watched quietly as Zhang Xiaoman negotiated with 2nd Company and 3rd Company. A group of soldiers were smoking and chatting off to the side, and some of them had even taken off their shoes. The entire building was filled with a strange odor that was mixed with the smell of cigarettes. However, the cigarettes were different from those the private troops of the other strongholds smoked. Even while the soldiers were chatting, their guns remained in their arms at the most convenient positions. Old Su had mentioned to him that Fortress 178 was a different kind of place. At that time, Ren Xiaosu thought that since they were all strongholds, how different could they be? But now he understood what Su Xianchu meant when he saw how different it really was. Ren Xiaosu put away the grenades while asking Zhang Xiaoman, "I think we should be more careful during our attack. The layout of Shishuan village is very complex, and the Zone Consortium has recently built some new buildings. We can't guarantee that they might not have some tricks up their sleeves. I get the feeling that our attack on Shishuan village has gone too smoothly." Things that went too smoothly would always make Ren Xiaosu a little uneasy. Zhang Xiaoman didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You call this easy? If it weren't for the fact that you could accurately drop those grenades, do you know how many of our people would have died in this town?" You didn't know, but Battalion Commander Zhou was prepared to sacrifice the entire forward strike battalion here. Ren Xiaosu was stunned. Is it that serious? He's prepared to sacrifice the entire forward strike battalion for this urban combat. That's right. Zhang Xiaoman sighed and said, "Only by taking Shishuan village and clearing out the long-range artillery emplacements hidden here can the troops in the rear regroup at the FOB with no worries and carry out the next stage of the battle plan." Next to them, Jiao Xiaochen added on, "Wars these days are all about modern firearms and explosives. Our forward strike battalion's role is to clear all obstacles during the early stages of the war. After that, we'll take on the temporary role of scouts to handle infiltration and recon in order to patch any missing map intel for the rest of our troops. We have basically no involvement in the main battles after that." "Then did we get sent here as cannon fodder?" Ren Xiaosu frowned. Why did it sound no different from being cannon fodder to him? But Zhang Xiaoman immediately rejected any suggestion of that. He said seriously, "We're not cannon fodder. Fortress 178 has never required cannon fodder to win a war. It's just that the division of our fighting forces is different. Today's sacrifices will lead to a victory for the rear forces. This is also the reason why all the candidates for the successor of Fortress 178's commander must come through the razor-sharp company. Only those who have risked their lives before have the right to ask others to fight for him." Ren Xiaosu was silent. Jiao Xiaochen clapped him on the shoulder and said happily, "Commander Zhang came from the razor-sharp company. If we're really cannon fodder, and if the commander was willing to be cannon fodder as well, then what makes us so special that we can reject the notion of that?" Understanding dawned upon Ren Xiaosu. It was probably because of the current commander leading by example that Fortress 178 was such a cohesive force. So what did it mean when Zhang Jinglan specially arranged for him to join Razor Sharp Company after he had said that he wanted to be posted to the most dangerous unit in the fortress? "How long are we going to fight this war?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "Until the Zone Consortium is completely destroyed, of course. We're going to fight all the way northeast till we reach Mt Pingluo." Zhang Xiaoman said, "Until a hyena like the Zone Consortium is totally destroyed, there won't be any peace in the northwest." That night, right after the sun set, the Razor Sharp Company led an attack into the interior of Shishuan village. During the day, the enemies in the town seemed to have received orders to take back the lost ground. But in urban warfare, it was always the attackers who were at a disadvantage. The route the enemy had chosen to break through was exactly where 2nd Company and 3rd Company were stationed. The two company commanders were already filled with anger, and the more they thought about it, the more pent up they got. Now that the enemy had come knocking on their door, they would definitely strike at them mercilessly. When they broke through the enemy lines, the machine gun positions they captured still had heavy machine guns and ammunition that could be used. However, Zhang Xiaoman and the others from Razor Sharp Company did not take them because they were already carrying a lot of weight. Now that all of these firearms and ammunition were in the hands of Second Company and Third Company, they wanted nothing more than to rain down a hail of bullets on the enemy. Several walls even collapsed from the heavy gunfire. Li Haikan was roaring with rage from behind a machine gun as he fired at the enemy ruthlessly. The defenders of Shishuan village made several waves of attacks, but they were unable to break through the defensive line Second Company and Third Company had set up. They were forced to retreat. After the second day of surprise attacks ended, the Razor Sharp Company led the rest of the troops to advance 5 kilometers into Shishuan village. Only a small portion of the Zone Consortium's troops were still putting up a stubborn resistance in some buildings in the north. This battle made the defenders of Shishuan village extremely sullen as they had thought their firepower could hold back the enemy. In this urban warfare, there were more than a dozen emplacements with sufficient firepower. There were also many soldiers hidden within buildings, ready to snipe any of the invaders. But after 2 days, they suddenly felt like their defensive positions had been constructed out of paper. They simply could not hold back Fortress 178's soldiers. Sometimes, they would even get hit by a grenade before they saw any signs of the enemy. It was too frustrating. According to their initial plans, they would be laying waste to the entire forward strike battalion of Fortress 178 here in Shishuan village. But in the end, all it took was 3 companies from the forward strike battalion to capture Shishuan village. In fact, if this hadn't been urban combat, the effects of the grenades going off in an open space would not have caused as much destruction as it did. But now, the dark houses that were supposed to act as a defensive barrier for the garrison ended up turning into targets for Ren Xiaosu to attack. The next night, Battalion Commander Zhou Yinglong felt a little numb when Zhang Xiaoman gave him a satrap. Zhou Yinglong had asked Commander Zhang Jinglan for more time to complete their mission. Only by having more time could they comfortably capture Shishuan village in battle. As such, the armoured brigade to the rear temporarily slowed their advance. But as soon as he bought some time for the forward strike battalion, Zhang Xiaoman, who was at the front lines, actually told him they might be able to take Shishuan village by the next day. "We aren't, Captain." Jiao Xiaochen chuckled and said, "Ren Xiaosu has been forging a safe path forward for us on the front lines all this while, and we're just here acting as his support, so we don't feel tired at all." Zhang Xiaoman was speaking his most commonly used lines to motivate the troops before the final battle. Essentially, the closing stages of a battle was when it would get most dangerous, so he was hoping to lift the spirits of his troops and let them face the fight in tip-top condition. He was never one to be good at giving pep talks. Therefore, he thought it would be better to speak while everyone was resting. But in the end, it turned out to be totally unnecessary. After 2 days of high-intensity fighting, the soldiers of the Razor Sharp Company were each more pumped up than the last. This was unlike any of the battles they had fought in the past. They'd never had it so easy before. Zhang Xiaoman said with a sigh, "Forget it. Let's just get it over and done with. Everyone, take note." Battalion Commander Zhou and the other commanders suspect they hid some very destructive weapon systems inside this town. So if the enemy gets forced into a corner on the final day of battle, they might choose to activate those weapons. Ren Xiaosu asked, "Did Battalion Commander Zhou say what might be hidden in this town?" "Probably weapons like artillery or something." Zhang Xiaoman said, "We still lack good intelligence gathering at Fortress 178, so we don't have a clear idea of how large the garrison here is or what weapons they have." On the intelligence gathering front, Ren Xiaosu really admired the Qing Consortium. Qing Zhen had made a most comprehensive preparation for the war and thought about potential futures as well. Meanwhile, over at Fortress 178, the entire stronghold ran in a near leaderless state after Zhang Jinglan went away for more than a decade. Although there was a stand-in commander during that period, he was a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. As a result, the northwestern man who had risen through the ranks of the military was mainly focused on ensuring their military readiness by constantly training and cycling the troops. He did not really develop the economy nor establish any intelligence-gathering infrastructure, as those were not aspects he was good at. During the day, the defenders of Sichuan village launched a wave of frenzied attacks against the fortress 178 troops. But after that wave was repulsed, there were no signs of activity from them anymore. At that time, Zhang Xiaoman thought the Zone Consortium had learned their lesson after being beaten back. However, the shadow clone Ren Xiaosu had left outside started lurking behind enemy lines. He discovered the Sichuan defenders had slowly retreated during the attack. Ren Xiaosu thought about it carefully. This attack probably acted as cover so the troops behind them could withdraw from the town, right? Only by retreating this way would Zhang Xiaoman and the others not detect them. But why were the defenders of Sichuan village retreating? Ren Xiaosu did not have time to think too much. "Captain, why don't we retreat?" "Retreat? We just won the battle and you're calling for us to retreat?" Zhang Xiaoman asked in surprise. "There's danger here," Ren Xiaosu said in a serious tone. Zhang Xiaoman frowned. "We headed out here to the front line precisely because there's danger, so how can we retreat? And if we retreat too far, much of the ground we gained will be lost for nothing. The Sichuan village defenders in the rear are retreating right now. There must be a reason for that," Ren Xiaosu said. "How do you know they're retreating? Haven't you been here all this while?" Zhang Xiaoman waved it off. "We've fought all the way here, so we can't retreat. If we managed it before, we can do it again." Ren Xiaosu said anxiously, "Let's retreat. What if the Zone Consortium bombards the entire town with artillery? How could that be possible? We only have 3 companies storming this town. If they bombard the area with artillery, that'll be no different from shooting a mosquito with a cannon." Zhang Xiaoman was just about to keep speaking when he realized he had been lifted up by Ren Xiaosu. Zhang Xiaoman was alarmed. "Put me down." However, Ren Xiaosu ignored what he was saying. He picked up Zhang Xiaoman and sprinted for the periphery of the town. The action he took dumbfounded everyone in the razor-sharp company. Zhang Xiaoman roared on Ren Xiaosu's shoulder, "Put me down, Ren Xiaosu. If you disobey my order, I'll kill you." Ren Xiaosu said as he ran, "If there were only 3 companies here, the Zone Consortium definitely wouldn't have fought so hard. But if the Zone Consortium knew that I was here as well, that would be different." Zhang Xiaoman was stunned. For a while, he did not understand what Ren Xiaosu was trying to get at. Meanwhile, the razor-sharp company, second company and third company were still caught in a daze. Zhang Xiaoman suddenly sighed on Ren Xiaosu's shoulder and shouted, "Let's all retreat. Ren Xiaosu, if you don't give me a satisfactory explanation afterwards, I'll be sure to court-martial you." All the soldiers and officers looked at one another. What else could they do but retreat? When they retreated all the way outside of Sichuan village, Ren Xiaosu still kept on running for another 2 kilometers before stopping. Zhang Xiaoman nearly vomited from the bumpy ride on Ren Xiaosu's shoulder. Putting everything else aside, Ren Xiaosu's stamina was amazing. He ran several kilometers while carrying a person weighing over 50 kilograms without any problem. But just as Ren Xiaosu placed Zhang Xiaoman on the ground, the razor-sharp company saw a huge fireball erupt in Sichuan village. Explosions also burst from afar. Even though they were several kilometers away, everyone could feel the ground shaking. It was not an artillery bombardment. In fact, an artillery bombardment was not even required. The explosives left behind by the defenders of Sichuan village was all it took for the entire abandoned town to get swallowed in a sea of fire. Zhang Xiaoman stared at this sight in a daze. How fucking evil! If we didn't leave, I bet all 3 of our companies would have died. He did not pursue the issue of Ren Xiaosu forcefully carrying him away. At this moment, the soldiers from 2nd Company and 3rd Company were looking at the sea of fire with lingering fear in their minds. Because of the explosions, everyone heard ringing in their ears. How did you know the enemy retreated? Zhang Xiaoman looked at Ren Xiaosu curiously. I don't want to talk about it, Ren Xiaosu answered bluntly. All right. Zhang Xiaoman did not probe further. Instead, he thought for a moment before saying, but you still have to listen to orders in the future. Have you forgotten that I said, Captain, you said that we had to know how to adapt to the situation, interrupted Ren Xiaosu. Zhang Xiaoman looked at Jiao Xiaochen. Did I say that? Jiao Xiaochen answered honestly, yes, sir. Zhang Xiaoman laughed. This was the joy of having survived a disaster. He solemnly said to Ren Xiaosu, thank you. Gratitude received from Zhang Xiaoman, +1. This was truly a life-saving act. Had it not been for Ren Xiaosu's quick reaction, all three companies would have been wiped out in the explosions. No matter how you put it, Ren Xiaosu's arrival had certainly given their lives greater security. Meanwhile, Ren Xiaosu looked at his gratitude log in the palace and turned his gaze to the others. Everyone looked at Ren Xiaosu and did not quite understand what he wanted. When Ren Xiaosu saw they had missed the hint, he explicitly expressed, ahem, shouldn't y'all thank me for saving your lives? Zhang Xiaoman was confused. Both second company and third company were too. They had never come across such a thick-skinned person before. Although he had saved their lives, straight up asking for their gratitude was too strange a request. Did he had some sort of condition that needed fulfilling? It was not like they knew Ren Xiaosu needed gratitude tokens, so they just treated it as some strange fetish of his. But even if they thought that, since their savior had made such a request, everyone would definitely not want to make it awkward for him. Second company's commander, Li Haikan, took the lead and thanked him first, followed by the others who did the same. Ren Xiaosu calculated the number of gratitude tokens he got and was surprised to see that all 397 people across the three companies had earned him a gratitude token each. None of them was insincere. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu realized all his tricks to try to earn gratitude tokens previously were too shameful. Only by sincerely saving someone could he get gratitude tokens easily. Including the gratitude tokens he had earned earlier, Ren Xiaosu's gratitude tokens now surpassed 800 again. Zhang Xiaoman suddenly asked, Ren Xiaosu, I remember what you just said on the run out here about the Zone Consortium not hesitating to use their artillery shells to bombard this area due to your presence? What did you mean? Do you have a vendetta with the Zone Consortium? Ren Xiaosu thought for a moment and answered, I was just saying. Don't take it seriously. He could not explain too much. When he barged into the Zone Consortium's defensive front, he had used the shadow door to throw the explosive poker cards at their forces. Back then, not all the Zone Consortium soldiers were killed, so Zhong Cheng would definitely know he possessed that power. Although he had also used the shadow door multiple times during the urban combat, those who encountered it should all be dead. So Zhong Cheng should not know he was still alive, right? If Zhong Cheng knew that Ren Xiaosu was still alive, he would probably not be able to eat or sleep well. Zhong Cheng had to be badly hoping to kill him, just as how he really hoped to kill Zhong Cheng. Seeing that Ren Xiaosu did not want to talk about it, Zhang Xiaoman said, according to the plan, we should have garrisoned Shishuan village after we completed our mission. But now that the entire town has been destroyed, it looks like our plan will have to change. Let's contact Battalion Commander Zhou and see where we should go next. The radio man immediately radioed Zhou Yinglong. Zhou Yinglong asked blankly, what? You've captured the town already? Zhou Yinglong used to be shocked by the ferocity of the razor-sharp company. But now, he was getting used to it. Zhang Xiaoman said, Shishuan village has been destroyed. I wonder how many explosives the Zone Consortium buried in that town. They actually blew up the entire place. What? Zhou Yinglong was shocked. Then are y'all alright? Zhou Yinglong was an expert at fighting wars, so he could immediately tell how dangerous it was when he heard what happened. However, Zhang Xiaoman calmly replied, "Fortunately, we discovered the enemy's movements in time and ran the hell out of Shishuan village." Zhou Yinglong felt that listening to the situation reports each day was really making his heart weaker. It was never as agitating as this in the previous wars they had fought. However, it was a good thing they had managed to capture Shishuan village. From now on, there would no longer be any threats in the surroundings of the forward operating base. Zhou Yinglong said, "Return to the FOB to regroup. You'll mop up the wilderness with the entire forward strike battalion in 2 days." The mop-up of the wilderness was to circle the forward operating base in a radius of 120 kilometers to eliminate any hidden threats. This was to prevent the Zone Consortium from leaving any guerrillas in the wilderness. In the tales of tea house storytellers, war was a struggle between the strategies of the talented. For Zhou Yinglong and the rest, war was just about getting the details right. Just establishing a forward operating base required some extreme care and caution. Only then would Commander Zhang have the foundation to execute his strategy. After all, even skyscrapers had to be built on a good foundation. Zhang Xiaoman finished communicating on the radio. He said with a grin, "Gentlemen, we can head back to the FOB and nap. Let's get the chow hall to make us some delicious food. We're the men of the hour." In the command post, Zhou Yinglong was sitting at the end of the table. If not for the Forward Strike Battalion's special status, a battalion commander like him would not have the right to sit here. The command post was considered sacred to the troops of Fortress 178. Every time the soldiers passed by the command post tent, they would imagine the day they could also sit in there to report about the battles. At this moment, Zhang Jinglan looked at Zhou Yinglong with a smile and said, "You just went outside for a moment and can't hide the joy on your face now that you're back. What happened? Did your wife give birth to your second child?" "Commander, what are you talking about?" Zhou Yinglong said happily, "How can I possibly be contacting my wife when I'm in the base? I'm happy because my forward strike battalion has already captured Shishuan village. Luckily, they didn't fail." Zhou Yinglong's cocky expression was exactly the same as Zhang Xiaoman's when he mentioned how fortunate it was they'd succeeded. Actually, the entire forward strike battalion had the same attitude. "Oh." Zhang Jinglan smiled and said, "Didn't you ask me for more time to complete the mission the day before yesterday? You said it wouldn't be easy to take Shishuan village and even tried to reason with me how difficult urban warfare was. So why have y'all suddenly achieved the objective today?" Zhou Yinglong rolled his eyes and said, "That Ren Xiaosu had joined the Razor Sharp Company is a badass. Even if I personally joined the battlefield, the mission would not have gone so smoothly." "Let me hear about it," Zhang Jinglan said calmly. "That kid's superpower is to open up a portal to anywhere within a 1 kilometer range. This power seems to be specifically made for urban warfare." Zhou Yinglong praised, "He can cripple an MG nest with a grenade from 1 kilometer away." "Hell yeah!" Zhang Jinglan smiled at the people around him and said, "Zhou Yinglong told me at the beginning that he didn't want Ren Xiaosu, saying that he looked too skinny to fight. But I reckon that he won't let Ren Xiaosu leave if someone tries to steal him away." Zhou Yinglong mumbled, "What I meant back then was that I don't want useless people. I realize he's useful now, and he even contributed greatly too." Meanwhile, the group of commanders at the table were thinking that Zhou Yinglong was too good at sucking up to others. He knew that Commander Zhang wanted to hear about Ren Xiaosu, so he specifically chose to share Ren Xiaosu's heroic deeds with him. But everyone knew that Zhou Yinglong was telling the truth, because Zhou Yinglong would not dare to lie in front of Commander Zhang. Someone spoke up, "Just being capable isn't enough. What's he like?" Everyone was judging Ren Xiaosu as a candidate to be the next fortress commander. So, capabilities aside, his conduct was something that mattered to them as well. But since Zhang Jinglan made the choice, he was not afraid of everyone finding fault with his decision. Back then, if Zhang Jinglan did not admire Ren Xiaosu, he would not have allowed Ren Xiaosu to become the replacement teacher of the school. However, Zhang Jinglin had not expected Ren Xiaosu to come this far at that time. At that time, Zhang Jinglin had thought about getting Ren Xiaosu to be the schoolteacher because that arrangement would not affect the progress of the students. If Ren Xiaosu was a normal person, he would not be thinking about pulling him into this whirlpool of authority either. But even though he did not pull him in, Ren Xiaosu walked straight into it himself. What Fortress 178 needed was not a good person as its leader. But of course, they could not be a bad person, or worse, a belligerent bore. When Zhang Jinglin first started looking at the commanders around him, he was surprised that none of them were suitable choices. Until Wang Shenzi delivered Ren Xiaosu right to his doorstep. Actually, Ren Xiaosu was not the best candidate either. However, Zhang Jinglin felt that the young man had drive, and as long as he had that kind of motivation, his future was something Zhang Jinglin thought would be worth looking forward to. However, these commanders believed the young Ren Xiaosu was only lucky to be chosen by Zhang Jinglin. Meanwhile, Zhang Jinglin was thinking that Ren Xiaosu might not even be willing to remain at Fortress 178. Zhou Yinglong could not answer the question about Ren Xiaosu's character. He should be alright, to be honest. Zhou Yinglong only cared about the satraps. Why would he worry about whether Ren Xiaosu was a good person? To Zhou Yinglong, everything was fine as long as they won the battles. Zhang Jinglin tapped his fingers on the table. Huzhen Zi, Chai's Hai Long, your armored brigade and infantry divisions will need to get to the FOB ASAP. I'll give you 2-3 days. Fu Hong, your engineering battalion will need to hurry to the Blackstone River within half a month and build a bridge crossing there. Numerous orders were issued from Zhang Jinglin's mouth as everyone realized this was not the time to be worrying over Ren Xiaosu. They still had a tough battle on their hands. When the razor-sharp company returned to the forward operating base, Zhang Xiaoman went to the makeshift chow hall and shouted, "Lin Yuz, where's Lin Yuz?" Lin Yuz, who was the manager of the makeshift chow hall, walked out with a smile on his face. "Hey, if it isn't Captain Zhang, our war hero. Make some good grub. Our brothers are hungry after coming back from the front lines. We're gonna shower first. After we're done showering, we wanna see the piping hot dishes ready. Braised pork and braised chicken, those are 2 dishes we demand." Zhang Xiaoman shouted. Lin Yu smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'll make 'em just for you. There's even barley wine for you to drink. Just be sure to not sneak it out of the base. After today, you can't drink any more." Normal soldiers couldn't request the dishes they wanted or drink alcohol. Even an officer like Zhou Yinglong was not allowed to do so, as all officers and men were treated in the same regard. However, war heroes were different. They could freely request whatever food they wanted that even the fortress commander could not eat. This had always been the tradition in Fortress 178. You would be given whatever you wished to eat after winning a battle. Rules like these made the men in Fortress 178 understand one thing, and that was how they definitely had to win all their battles. Allowing the razor-sharp company to drink alcohol was due to the fact that they would not be going on any new missions for the next 2 days. They were back to regroup and rest, after all, but not letting them sneak the alcohol away was in case they drank before their next battle and end up delaying everything. Zhang Xiaoman swaggered out of the chow hall so much that even his shoulders were overflowing with arrogance. He was as smug as he could get. When the soldiers from the engineering corps saw him, they laughed and said, "Zhang Xiaoman, you're so damn fucking cocky." Zhang Xiaoman smiled and said, "Can't I be cocky after returning victorious from a battle? The mission that old Zhou set for me was to capture Shishuan village within half a month, but we managed to do it in 3 days." But just as he said that, Zhang Xiaoman felt his ass get kicked. When he turned around and saw it was Zhou Yinglong, he immediately smiled and said, "Battalion Commander, how have you been these past few days?" Zhou Yinglong's face darkened. "Don't embarrass yourself. Hurry up and shower already." "Ah, all right." Zhang Xiaoman turned around and ran off. One could take a hot shower at the forward operating base, with the facilities here much more complete than expected. When Ren Xiaosu heard it was possible to take a hot shower, he wondered how these soldiers did it. When everyone took off their clothes and walked into the showers, Jiao Xiaochen was shocked when he saw Ren Xiaosu. While wearing clothes, he thought that Ren Xiaosu looked quite thin. But now he felt Ren Xiaosu's muscles exuded an aura of strength. After they showered and dressed, Ren Xiaosu was surprised to see two girls in nurse uniforms standing at the entrance of the showers. Ren Xiaosu thought they were waiting for the other soldiers of the razor-sharp company, but when the two girls saw Ren Xiaosu, their eyes lit up. One of the girls took the initiative to walk up to him and whispered, "When you first arrived at the fob, I took notice of you. Here, this hand cream is for you." With that said, the girl grabbed the other girl's hand and ran off. The razor-sharp company's soldiers behind him were all jealous when they saw this scene. "I'm jealous again, why is Ren Xiaosu so popular with the ladies?" Jiao Xiaochen smiled and said, "We're just a group of rugged men from the northwest. The moment Ren Xiaosu arrived, we were knocked off our perches. Also, the entire military knows he's a supernatural being and that Commander Zhang thinks highly of him, so of course the girls would try to get to know him." As he finished speaking, an orderly ran over. He looked at Ren Xiaosu and asked, "Are you Ren Xiaosu?" "Yes, I am," Ren Xiaosu said. "Commander Zhang has summoned you. He wishes to see you." The orderly showed him the way. Ren Xiaosu turned around and said to Jiao Xiaochen and the others, "Y'all can eat first. I'll be there in a bit." "All right, we'll leave some for you," Jiao Xiaochen said in envy. He had actually been summoned to meet the commander on his own. When Ren Xiaosu arrived at the command post tent, only Zhang Jinglin was inside. He was standing deep in thought in front of the sand table. Ren Xiaosu walked in and said, "Teacher." When Zhang Jinglin heard that, he was taken aback before smiling and saying, "I haven't been addressed that way in a long time." Ren Xiaosu also smiled and said, "I really miss the school days." Zhang Jinglin glanced at him before sighing. "We can't go back to those days." "Teacher, why have you called me here?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "I just thought of chatting with you to catch up." Zhang Jinglin said with a smile, "The razor-sharp company has participated in 2 tough battles consecutively without anyone dying. Is that to your credit?" "Not really." Ren Xiaosu gave it some thought and said, "There was also some luck involved. Do you know how hard it is to lead a company on the battlefield without anyone dying?" Zhang Jinglin asked. "I know it's very difficult. If you know how difficult it is and still insist on achieving it at the risk of injuring yourself, that's called stupidity," Zhang Jinglin said calmly. Ren Xiaosu remained silent for a moment before replying, "Same goes for bravery." The things Ren Xiaosu wanted to protect in the past had been destroyed by the Zone Consortium. This led to Ren Xiaosu looking back on his beautiful vision from before and thinking about whether he could protect anything in this chaotic world. As a result, he had even taken on the survival of the razor-sharp company as his personal mission. Only by ensuring that the razor-sharp company remained intact could he have the right to go to the Central Plains later to search for his family and friends to continue living in this chaotic world. "I can sense conflict within you," Zhang Jinglin said calmly, "it's exactly the same as when I was young. Back then, everyone wanted me to pick up a gun, saying how the battlefield needed soldiers who could fire a gun, how it was no place for a useless medic. Sometimes, even I wondered if my persistence was correct, and whether I should also pick up a gun and attack alongside them." Zhang Jinglin continued, "At that time, I was thinking about bending to the will of this chaotic world. Only that way could I live a better life." "What happened?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "Persistence is persistence. Being correct doesn't matter." Zhang Jinglin said, "Never deny yourself. Life should be a candle, burning brightly from tip to end." Ren Xiaosu silently muttered the words to himself. Life should be a candle, burning brightly from tip to end. He suddenly realized Zhang Jinglin might have called him over because he saw the conflict inside him, so he wanted to tell him these words. Zhang Jinglan smiled and said, "Where do you plan on going after destroying the Zone Consortium?" "To the Central Plains." Ren Xiaosu said with certainty, "I want to find Big Sister Xiaoyu, Yan Liuyuan and the others and bring them back." Zhang Jinglan asked again, "Will you return to Fortress 178? "I'm not sure." Ren Xiaosu could not answer that question. "You should know why I had you join the Razor Sharp Company. I won't stop you from going to the Central Plains, but if there's something you wish to protect, then Fortress 178 is your best choice." Ren Xiaosu said in a serious tone, "Commander, if you don't let me go and eat now, there won't be any food left." Ren Xiaosu suddenly remembered he had just come out of the shower and had not eaten yet. When Ren Xiaosu arrived at the Chow Hall, Zhang Xiaoman was already on the verge of blacking out. Ren Xiaosu sat nearby and ate the food everyone had left for him. However, they had kept so much food for him that it felt like they were afraid he wouldn't have enough to eat. Zhang Xiaoman dragged Ren Xiaosu to drink with him, but Ren Xiaosu refused to drink anything at all. When Zhang Xiaoman realized he could not persuade Ren Xiaosu, he turned around to look for someone else. While drinking, Zhang Xiaoman suddenly hugged Jiao Xiaochen and said, "Wei Yunlin, I missed you." Jiao Xiaochen quickly pushed Zhang Xiaoman off and chided him with a laugh, "You miss your wife now." Someone laughed at Zhang Xiaoman while drinking and said, "Your wife getting married to you is like sticking a flower in a cow pie." Zhang Xiaoman sobered up a little and said unhappily, "If she's a flower, then cows ain't gonna shit anymore. Stop acting like it was a pity to marry her. You don't know what kind of a treasure you've picked up. All you know is how to pretend to be tough when you're outside," Jiao Xiaochen said with a laugh. Ren Xiaosu was an outsider in the noisy Chow Hall. He might be obsessed with keeping the Razor Sharp Company alive, but even now, it was very difficult for him to feel like he truly belonged in the Razor Sharp Company. And he had the same feeling for Fortress 178 as well. Lin Yuz, the manager of the Chow Hall, was watching the Razor Sharp Company with his arms folded and laughing. He smiled at the chefs beside him and said, "See that? These are the war heroes of our army. They're the ones who fought in the 2 battles recently, and they even won both of them." Someone muttered, "Chief Lin, is that young man sitting by them and eating also from the Razor Sharp Company? Why does it feel like he doesn't fit in?" Lin Yuz turned his gaze to Ren Xiaosu and saw him eating quietly. He looked unaffected by the noise around him. "Is he the guy called Ren Xiaosu? Rumor has it that Ren Xiaosu is a beast in battle, yet? I heard that half the credit for capturing Shishuan village goes to him. That young man looks so soft it doesn't fit the descriptions at all." But then Zhang Xiaoman came up to Ren Xiaosu in his drunken stupor and clutched Ren Xiaosu's left hand. "Bro! If it weren't for you, our brothers would not have made it back this time. Thank you again for saving our lives." Then Lin Yuz and the Chow staff watched with their jaws hanging as Zhang Xiaoman knelt on the ground to thank him. He nearly even kowtowed to Ren Xiaosu. When someone had too much to drink, they were fucking capable of doing anything. Ren Xiaosu had not finished his meal yet, but he quickly pulled Zhang Xiaoman up. "Can you fucking stop drinking already?" But while he was pulling Zhang Xiaoman up, his comrades from the Razor Sharp Company beside him also came over to toast him. "Thank you, Ren Xiaosu, for saving our lives." Ren Xiaosu did not expect his second weapon to get unlocked while everyone in the Chow Hall was watching. After this group of northwestern men had too much to drink, they started thanking him to no end. They easily said it 7 or 8 times in a row, and all of them were even sincere in their gratitude. Ren Xiaosu was wondering if he should keep some alcohol in his storage space in the future. When they had nothing better to do, he could get his comrades of the Razor Sharp Company together for a drink or two. The voice from the palace said, "You have reached the number of gratitude tokens required to unlock the side quest's weapon. Confirm unlock." Ren Xiaosu took a deep breath. Unlock. The palace suddenly filled with a faint glow. Along the circular walls of the palace, a display cabinet that was originally shrouded in a dark fog brightened. The black mist within it slowly dissipated as well. Ren Xiaosu looked at it and saw a large, black sniper rifle stored inside the long and extensive display cabinet. Ren Xiaosu was guessing if the second weapon would be another saber, a sword, or perhaps, a bow. But he did not expect a sniper rifle. He was even more surprised that the sniper rifle also appeared on the back of the shadow clone. It was like his originally unrelated skills would eventually undergo a chemical reaction and combine. There were 2 black sniper rifles and 2 black sabers. When the sniper rifle was revealed behind the black mist, Ren Xiaosu immediately understood the properties of the sniper rifle. It had an effective range of 2,800 meters and did not need to be loaded with any bullets, and even the bullets could be conjured with his mind. He could also switch between incendiary bullets and armor-piercing bullets as he wished. These days, the most effective sniper rifle in the world only had an effective range of 2,300 meters. Effective range referred to the typical engagement distances in normal situations. As long as someone wasn't shooting at a specific target, bullet drop need not be considered. If a sniper calculated the trajectory precisely and had good marksmanship, hitting a further target would not be a problem at all. For example, the maximum effective range of a sniper rifle was 2,300 meters. However, the longest recorded kill was at 2,475 meters. Wait! While Ren Xiaosu was exploring the black sniper rifle in his mind, he discovered a type of bullet he had never seen before. Under normal circumstances, there were generally several types of sniper bullets: white, red, green, brass, orange, and so on. The difference in color was to differentiate between normal lead bullets, armor-piercing bullets, incendiary bullets, and tracers. But what was this black-tipped bullet? Ren Xiaosu was unsure of what that black-tipped bullet was used for. After all, he did not have the chance to try it out and could only wait until he got into the wilderness to find out. At this moment, Zhang Xiaoman and the others were still drunk as they stumbled around the chow hall. Ren Xiaosu did not know whether to laugh or cry as he carried these people back to their barracks 2 at a time. Meanwhile, the troops at the forward operating base all watched in amazement as Ren Xiaosu made more than 60 trips between the chow hall and the barracks to carry everyone back. On the same day, news of Ren Xiaosu carrying his comrades back to their barracks became the talk of the forward operating base. In the evening, Zhang Xiaoman and the others were still drunk after waking up. But when they heard it was Ren Xiaosu who had carried them back, they quickly thanked him. "Xiaosu, thank you for bringing us back. We definitely won't drink that much again in the future. That was so embarrassing." However, Zhang Xiaoman realized Ren Xiaosu had turned unhappy. He heard Ren Xiaosu say, "Keep drinking. How can a man not have alcohol? If they did not drink, where would he get all his gratitude tokens from?" Before the drinking session, he only had a little over 800 gratitude tokens. But afterwards, he still had more than 500 gratitude tokens even after the new weapon was unlocked. Ren Xiaosu even wanted to tell Zhang Xiaoman that they should stop going into battle and just keep drinking every day if they could. After unlocking the sniper rifle, the palace issued another side quest for the third weapon. This time, it would require 10,000 gratitude tokens to unlock. Ren Xiaosu did not even know where he was going to get so many gratitude tokens from. Suddenly, Zhou Yinglong entered the barracks where the razor-sharp company was staying. When he detected the smell of alcohol in the barracks, he frowned. "Zhang Xiaoman, get up right now." Everyone from the razor-sharp company got out of bed and smartly stood at attention in 2 rows on either side of the walkway. Zhou Yinglong walked around and inspected them. "Look at how drunk you got. Do you know how to act like soldiers?" Zhang Xiaoman muttered, "We're all heroes. Aren't we being assigned a new mission in another 2 days?" Zhou Yinglong was so angry he laughed. "You aren't obeying the chain of command after drinking, eh? You have to add the word sir when you're speaking to me." Zhang Xiaoman was stunned for a moment before saying, "Sir, I'm a war hero." With a loud crash, Zhou Yinglong kicked Zhang Xiaoman to the floor. You better sober up. Your razor-sharp company will be assigned a new mission tomorrow. Come and report to me after your head clears up. Upon hearing that there was a new mission, Zhang Xiaoman immediately got off the floor. Battalion Commander, what mission is it? Is it urgent? It's a covered OP. Come and talk to me after you've sobered up. Zhou Yinglong left the barracks with his hands folded behind his back. The razor-sharp company's soldiers in the barracks all looked at one another. What was this covered OP about? In the past, covered operations like these would never be given to the razor-sharp company. Although they could handle the tough battles and defeat strong foes, infiltration and ambushes were not exactly what they were best at. So these covered ops were always carried out by the reconnaissance battalion. The soldiers in the reconnaissance battalion were savage. Whenever combat competitions were held in the military, the top 10 places would almost always be taken by soldiers from the recon battalion. So why was the razor-sharp company suddenly assigned to a covered OP? The next day, Zhang Xiaoman had a frown on his face after returning from Zhou Yinglong's place. He said to the soldiers of the razor-sharp company, the main forces will be heading towards the Blackstone River in the north. Right across that river is Mt Wuchuan, where the Zone Consortium's defensive line is set up. Then what about us? Jiao Xiaochen asked. We'll set off this afternoon and head to the front line at Mt Chienguan and Buin River before crossing to the flank of the main battlefield. We're to destroy the bridge there to sever the supply lines east of the Zone Consortium. Then we're to join up with our main forces at Mt Wuchuan. We're only one company. Do they really expect us to infiltrate deep into the rear to sever the supply lines there? And we have to blow up the bridge too? The bridge there is heavily guarded by Zone Consortium troops. Jiao Xiaochen was shocked. Battalion Commander Zhou thinks too highly of us, right? That's the order. Zhang Xiaoman said in a serious tone, pack up your stuff. We set off at 1600 sharp. We must reach the Buin River in 7 days and blow up the Zone Consortium's bridge there. We have to make sure that our main forces arriving at Blackstone River won't have any worries of a rear attack. The Blackstone River and Buin River were in two completely different locations. Headquarters believed the potential price of breaking through at the Buin River was too costly, so they would rather build a pontoon bridge on the Blackstone River to attack the defensive line at Mt Wuchuan, as it was much safer than going to Buin River. The only thing they needed to worry about was that the enemies at Buin River might seize the opportunity to sneak attack the flanks of the main forces of Fortress 178 when the main battle broke out at the front line of Mt Wuchuan. Hence, they sent the razor-sharp company to cut off this route to prevent the Zone Consortium from being able to temporarily cross the Buin River. The only problem was that this operation was too difficult. It was akin to letting the razor-sharp company infiltrate deep behind enemy lines on their own. However, Zhou Yinglong said that the operation to blow up Buin Bridge had to be carried out in secret. There would be a predetermined time for the operation, so the fewer people carried out this operation, the better. At this moment, most of the people at the forward operating base did not know what strategy headquarters had drawn up. But all of a sudden, the razor-sharp company announced they were going out to head for a multi-day ruck. The group put on their field packs and carried their weapons and ran out of the forward operating base. Everyone thought the razor-sharp company would take at most 3 days to return from their training. But after a few days passed, they finally realized the razor-sharp company was not going to be coming back. The soldiers of the razor-sharp company trekking in the wilderness all had a new medal on their chests. The medals were engraved with the word Sichuan on them and were obtained by all soldiers who had participated in the Battle of Sichuan village. Fu Rao mumbled as he walked, "Hey, Captain, how much do you think this medal can fetch?" Zhang Xiaoman gave it some thought and said, "This was the first true battle since our military started its campaign. Since the raid on Mt Dingyuan was against bandits, the Sichuan village battle should hold a greater significance. Furthermore, there's only a few hundred of these medals in total, so I estimate that it can be sold for up to 10,000 yuan. That's not too bad." Fu Rao was overjoyed. I'll sell it once we get back. Ren Xiaosu was stunned when he heard that. Isn't this metal a symbol of honor? Are y'all going to sell it just like that? He pondered over how he thought the razor-sharp company had a strong sense of honor. What's the big deal? Zhang Xiaoman chuckled and said, even if we sell the metal to someone else, would that make us feel any less honorable? Our third-class citations still exist, so wouldn't it be better to exchange the metals for something more practical? Wouldn't it be nicer to use that 10,000 yuan to buy some lamb chops? When they were given metals, their third-class unit citations that had been withheld previously were reinstated. However, all of this was carried out in secret, and they would probably have to wait until this operation was completed before the decoration ceremony would be made up to them. Ren Xiaosu thought to himself that these thugs from the razor-sharp company were too shameless. They would even sell their metals for money? Yet a company like this was so fierce and fearless when it came to combat. There are loads of buyers who want them. Zhang Xiaoman said with a laugh. Some of them are those who aspired to be soldiers but couldn't pass their physical, businessmen collectors in the fortress, or parents who buy them for their children as a coming-of-age gift. The entire Fortress 178 has a population of more than 2 million people, so don't underestimate their purchasing power. Ren Xiaosu finally understood why the residents of Fortress 178 had a strange sense of respect for those in the military profession. Perhaps it was because these soldiers had always been protecting them. Zhang Xiaoman continued, however, some of the medals can't fetch a high price, like those that were given out to many soldiers, or the ones awarded for winning unimportant battles. Normally, families will only buy the medals that are worth a few hundred yuan for their children. But only the collectors are willing to seek out the kinds of medals like the ones we have. Shishuan village was the opening battle of this war, and the number of people awarded with the medal isn't that many either, so there's definitely a much higher collection value to it. Then if our razor-sharp company achieved great things again in an individual battle, wouldn't we be awarded an even more valuable medal? Ren Xiaosu asked. But of course. Zhang Xiaoman chuckled and said, but how easy is it to do that? That would cost people their lives. Ren Xiaosu remained silent. The journey to Buin Bridge was a bumpy one. Along the way they passed by Shishuan village, where the fire had extinguished. The entirety of the ruins were covered in a hazy darkness, making it seem like a purgatory of monsters. Zhang Xiaoman looked at the town from afar and said, I wonder what the world was like before the cataclysm. All right, stop watching. Everyone, go on alert. Who knows when we might stumble upon the enemy and end up in a battle. Shishuan village was located more than 200 kilometers away from Buin Bridge. They would have to enter a mountain range first before they could stealthily infiltrate Buin River from here. According to the intelligence reports, some of the Zone Consortium's combat troops were scattered through the mountain range as part of the concealed sentries and guerrillas. The razor-sharp company had to try to avoid them, not kill them. But if they could not avoid them, then whoever was braver would emerge victorious in battle. 2 hours after passing Shishuan village, the razor-sharp company arrived at the foot of a mountain. The mountain range here looked very odd, with the sunny side of the mountain covered in shrubs while the other side was the bare yellow body of the mountain itself. But at this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly crouched in pain with a frown. Right after, a loud crack came from the mountains. Zhang Xiaoman was startled. Everyone, scatter and take cover. There's a sniper. The difference between the sound of a sniper rifle and a normal rifle was enormous. So when the gunshot rang out, Zhang Xiaoman immediately reacted. Zhang Xiaoman dragged Ren Xiaosu with him towards some rocks nearby. However, he wondered what made Ren Xiaosu react before the gunshot had even sounded. Ren Xiaosu reacted like he was the one who had been shot. However, there were no injuries on him. What Zhang Xiaoman did not know was that the sniper's target was not actually Ren Xiaosu, but his shadow clone. Ren Xiaosu had discovered that if a bullet went between the shadow clone's brows, the backlash from the shadow clone would cause an even more intense pain to him. So he constantly controlled the shadow clone to make it move forward cautiously in case it was shot right between the eyes. As for what would happen when it got hit between the eyes, even Ren Xiaosu didn't know. All supernatural beings were still in the process of exploring their superpowers. However, it was different this time. While the shadow clone was scouting a few hundred meters ahead, a sniper headshot it squarely between the brows. After the shadow clone was shot, it turned into a ball of black mist and dissipated. At the same time, the black mist reappeared within Ren Xiaosu's mind palace and slowly started taking shape again. From the looks of it, if the shadow clone were hit between the brows, it would result in the shadow clone dissipating immediately. Furthermore, it would take a long time for it to reform, taking around 3 days to get back to its original state. The sniper's marksmanship was great. This should be an advanced level, or perhaps even a master level, sniper. After the shadow clone got shot, Ren Xiaosu did not even know where the opponent was. He could only roughly determine that the enemy was to his 12 o'clock. However, now that his opponent had hit their target, he wondered if they would shift to another location. Ren Xiaosu panted, this shot was aimed at a target from 400 meters away, and the snipers to our 12 o'clock, but I'm not sure if we're still within their effective range. The effective range of a sniper rifle was really far. When deployed in the forested mountains, it had an intimidating and unpredictable power. Next to him, seemingly unconcerned, Zhang Xiaoman said, I didn't expect the Zone Consortium to actually have a sniper waiting here in this mountain range. This is gonna be a tough nut to crack. Their entire company split up as the soldiers hid separately behind some rocks. Fortunately, the presence of the sniper was revealed in advance due to the gunshot that cracked. Otherwise, one of their platoons could have been wiped out by now. Then Zhang Xiaoman took off his helmet and slowly poked it out from behind the rocks. Bang! The helmet was sent flying by the formidable sniper bullet. Damn it! Zhang Xiaoman said, we're within the enemy's range. Jiao Xiaochen, who was 10 meters away, shouted from behind the rocks, Captain, what do we do now? This is a game of cat and mouse, and all we can do is hide here. Think of something, Captain. You're the fucking mouse, damn it. Zhang Xiaoman was also upset. But how could he have any good ideas? If he revealed his head even a little, he would fucking be dead. The supremacy of a sniper on the battlefield was perfectly displayed at this moment. A single person could suppress an entire company and keep them hiding behind some rocks while waiting for their deaths. This was a situation where the enemy could hit you but you couldn't retaliate at all. That was unless Zhang Xiaoman was willing to sacrifice his comrades as cannon fodder. By sacrificing a group of soldiers, the other troops could shift to a good tactical position. Someone suggested, why don't we contact the FOB and get them to send some reinforcements? Zhang Xiaoman sighed and said, they'd be too late. It'll take at least 3 days to get here from the FOB. By then, this sniper will probably have called for support from the Zone Consortium's guerrillas here in the mountain range as well. Why don't we wait and see who's more patient then, us or the sniper? Jiao Xiaochen said, or we can take advantage of nightfall to move away from here. You're such a fucking genius. You actually want to compete with a sniper on patience. Zhang Xiaoman was so angry he laughed. Since the sniper's hiding in this jungle, his scope will definitely be optimized for night vision. Gunning you down will be a game for him. What could he do? Did this mean that someone would have to die out here? Ren Xiaosu took a deep breath. When Zhang Xiaoman saw Ren Xiaosu's chest heave, he knew this was going to be bad. But in that instant, he saw Ren Xiaosu's pupils turn crimson. City Crusher. Activate. A second later, Ren Xiaosu dashed out from behind the rocks at an unbelievable speed. When Ren Xiaosu ran out, a sniper's bullet flew in as expected. But because Ren Xiaosu was moving too fast, the sniper's shot missed its target this time. Zhang Xiaoman was the only person who had noticed the unforgettable red glint in Ren Xiaosu's eyes. Was that his power? If that were the case, it would mean that Ren Xiaosu had two powers just like Su Xianchu. When Su Xianchu revealed both of his superpowers, the men from Fortress 178 were all extremely envious of him, and everyone was saying how he was the chosen one because of that. When most people did not even have any superpowers, Su Xianchu wielded two superpowers of his own. He was truly a unique existence at Fortress 178. But after today, he would not be the only one anymore. Zhang Xiaoman firmly believed that Ren Xiaosu must also have two superpowers. Their razor-sharp company finally had such an impressive supernatural being as well. However, Zhang Xiaoman could not help but worry about Ren Xiaosu's safety. Although charging out like this was a little better than being pinned behind the rocks, they were still quite a distance away from the sniper. If Ren Xiaosu were thinking about killing that sniper, it would probably be very difficult to accomplish. But the moment Ren Xiaosu ran out, he said, "Stay right here and don't move. Wait until I get back." City Crusher's effective duration was only 30 seconds, and Ren Xiaosu calculated that the valley where the sniper would be blind was probably still about half a kilometer away. But if he had to avoid the sniper's shots, he would have to serpentine. Sprinting across nearly 500 meters in the presence of a sniper was equivalent to suicide for the average person. But Ren Xiaosu had to take the gamble. The sniper was hidden in the shrubs in the 12 o'clock direction like a sinister vulture. He was aiming at the razor-sharp company through his scope and observing their every move. After making sure there were no snipers in this company, he began the game of cat and mouse. After the sniper fired a shot at the black shadow that he suspected was a supernatural being, the entire company got pinned behind some rocks. He wanted to slowly torture this group of people to their deaths. The sniper knew he could lie among the shrubs for 3 straight days and nights, but he did not believe that this group of normal soldiers could do likewise. Time would pass arduously slow for them if they just remained hidden behind the rocks and took cover. The sniper believed that in just 6 hours, the company hiding behind the rocks would break down and end up charging at him. But that would be an inconsequential struggle. However, events conspired against him. The sniper was not expecting someone so quick to appear from behind the rocks. He couldn't even adjust his sniper rifle to take aim at the target. That figure serpentined wildly into the open ground as the sniper tried to shoot him twice but failed in both attempts. Zhang Xiaoman and Jiao Xiaochen were not the types to sit back and do nothing. Zhang Xiaoman shouted, "Jiao Xiaochen, the sniper has a semi-automatic rifle. You only have one chance, protect Ren Xiaosu." Jiao Xiaochen did not utter a word. He understood what Zhang Xiaoman meant. He waited silently for a moment before he heard the crack of the sniper rifle. Then Jiao Xiaochen raised his mortar and loaded a shell into it. With a loud bang, the mortar round was lobbed at a specific angle towards a hillside to their 12 o'clock. Jiao Xiaochen did not know where exactly the sniper was. They only used that moment when the sniper fired his rifle at Ren Xiaosu to provide him some fire support. They did not think the shell would actually hit the enemy, but as long as they managed to disrupt him, that would be enough for Ren Xiaosu to safely get across the open terrain. Ren Xiaosu might be very fearsome, but their razor-sharp company was not useless. After the mortar blasted, no gunshots came from the sniper anymore. Jiao Xiaochen muttered, "Did we blast the enemy dead with that mortar attack? Fucking dream on." Zhang Xiaoman joked. "If you can hit the enemy with a single shot, that'll be like Liu Yao falling in love with you. It's absolutely impossible. I'm already married. Why would you mention Liu Yao?" Jiao Xiaochen countered, "You're the one who's pining for her, right? Which man in Fortress 178 doesn't miss her?" Zhang Xiaoman looked at Ren Xiaosu and saw he had successfully run to a blind spot where the sniper could not see him. So he said, "Let's remain safely hidden here and leave the rest to Ren Xiaosu. I believe he can take care of that sniper." Meanwhile, Ren Xiaosu was gasping for breath as he hid in the valley. The sniper had given him a lot of pressure, and if he had not activated City Crusher, he probably couldn't have dodged the enemy's bullets. Ren Xiaosu had only decided to run out from behind the rocks after carefully considering it. Previously, he and Yang Xiaojun had experimented to see if she could shoot him while he was moving at high speed. Of course, Yang Xiaojun would not really fire at him and only made a judgment call. If Ren Xiaosu did not activate City Crusher, Yang Xiaojun could shoot him with 100% certainty. But once he activated City Crusher, Yang Xiaojun's hit rate was reduced to 70%. At that time, Ren Xiaosu was still a little dejected. Even though he activated City Crusher, he could only reduce Yang Xiaojun's hit rate to 70%. But Yang Xiaojun remarked that it was because she was the one holding the rifle. If it were any other sniper, it would not be bad if they could have a 10% chance of gunning him down while he was in his City Crusher mode. At that moment, Ren Xiaosu did not know what to say. However, this was the reason why Ren Xiaosu took the gamble. In the end, it seemed that Yang Xiaojun was not bragging when she said that. As expected, she was much stronger than most other snipers. As Ren Xiaosu steadied his breathing, he started thinking about something. The sniper had probably already shifted to another location. After the sniper's plan to pin down the company behind the rocks had failed, he would definitely have to engage in maneuver warfare. Ren Xiaosu had to find and finish off this enemy. Otherwise, if they were to be constantly followed by a sniper during their march, who knew when the razor-sharp company would meet with disaster? He crept in the shadows and headed to that mountain in the 12 o'clock direction in an attempt to find any tracks of the sniper. He had to be extremely cautious. If he were not careful, he might end up dead to his opponent's rifle. Ren Xiaosu plucked 2 shrubs and smeared the crushed-up leaves onto his face and clothes for camouflage. He suddenly remembered what Yang Xiaojun had said to him. When 2 snipers meet in the wilderness, whoever reveals themselves first will die. That's the rule for all snipers. Ren Xiaosu took out the black sniper rifle from the palace and muttered to himself, I should be considered a sniper too, right? So then, where would the sniper shift to after leaving that 12 o'clock position in the mountain range? Ren Xiaosu carried his sniper rifle and slipped into the mountains. This was going to be his first hunt as a sniper. Ren Xiaosu knew well that it was dangerous for him to hunt down that sniper in the wilderness. That sniper's marksmanship was probably much better than his. But it did not matter. Ren Xiaosu was more adept at finding prey in the wilderness than his opponent was. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu was crouching next to some shrubs and searching for any signs of the enemy's whereabouts. The sniper was very careful not to leave behind any trash throughout the day. The sniper must have been carrying some individual field rations, but there were no signs of any discarded packaging. Most likely, the enemy had brought all the trash with him after eating, in case the discarded packaging exposed his whereabouts. Even when he was moving about in the wilderness, he was very careful not to leave behind any footprints on the soft mud. He would take the stone path whenever there was one and was even prepared to pass through a small stream to shake off anyone who might be following him. Ren Xiaosu looked at the shrubs in front of him and noticed some fallen leaves in an irregular pattern on the ground. When he saw this, he felt more confident. The chase had been going on for an entire day. The sniper did not know if he was being tracked, but he had not moved too far away from his original ambush spot. He was just going about in a large circle as his mind was still on the company that had come into the wilderness. That glory was going to be his. If he could kill an entire company, he would probably get promoted to major. However, he wasn't stupid. He had already called for reinforcements from the rear yesterday, and it was likely that the guerrillas coming to support him would arrive by today. The situation yesterday was actually very dangerous. But fortunately for him, he had decided to leave the ambush site in advance. Otherwise, he might have died to the mortar attack. The sniper was a little bewildered at the time. Just which fighting force was this company from? How did that spontaneous mortar attack drop so accurately on the spot he had ambushed them from? But what was even scarier was that soldier who used pure speed to avoid his shots. Actually, he had subconsciously thought of the famous Su Xianchu from Fortress 178 when he first noticed that shadow clone through his scope. Even the bandits in the wilderness knew the shadow clone was Su Xianchu's symbol, so how could he not know? If he killed Su Xianchu, his promotion to major would almost be secured. A sniper was a special type of soldier. Although they knew supernatural beings were very strong, they also understood that supernatural beings could not withstand a sniper's bullets. As such, the sniper subconsciously started searching for Su Xianchu's presence in the group. But since he had never seen him before, he could not tell which person in the group was him. As such, the sniper decided to get rid of the shadow clone first. If he could not defeat the shadow clone, he would retreat. In the end, he successfully defeated the shadow clone, and this made him grow in confidence. So a supernatural being was nothing more than that? After getting rid of the shadow clone, he thought the entire company's fate was in his hands. However, reality forced him to wake up. Not everyone's dynamic visual acuity was as strong as Yang Xiaojun's, nor were their reflexes as fast as hers. So when Ren Xiaosu sprinted out from behind the rocks, even the sniper found it difficult to catch a glimpse of Ren Xiaosu's figure. He barely fired 3 shots, and all 3 shots missed. Then he quickly got up and left, entirely dropping the idea of engaging the enemy here. The sniper knew that this supernatural being was more powerful than he had imagined. He needed a better opportunity to strike. The sniper glanced at the sky. After delaying for a day, the guerrillas should be arriving very soon. But all of a sudden, a shriek came from the direction of Crow Pass. The sniper was lying within the shrubs and staying still, but when he heard the sound, he realized it was the guerrillas he had called for, and they had been attacked. What was going on? Why would the guerrillas get attacked at Crow Pass? He hesitated for a while but ultimately decided to head towards the site of the incident. But he immediately felt that something was off as soon as he got over the ridge and saw the situation at Crow Pass. The sniper quickly turned around and went back behind the ridge to hide. A loud bang sounded in the distance as a bullet hit the position he was standing in a moment earlier. It was a sniper. The enemy actually had a sniper too. But that couldn't be right. He had been observing the company for a long time and was very sure there were no snipers in that group. How could they possibly hide something as large as a sniper rifle? If the enemy forces had a sniper, he definitely would not have tried to ambush the entire razor-sharp company all by himself. And at this moment, the guerrillas coming through Crow Pass to provide support were all surrounded by red vines hidden under the shrubs. There were also strange plants next to them spitting out khaki-colored fruits at them. When the fruit hit their bodies, it was so forceful that it broke their bones. Anyone who got hit in the chest would find that their ribs cracked. Those who were injured would even spit out a mouthful of blood. The troops who arrived weren't small in number. The sniper had called in to report the situation and stated that the enemy was a full company. As such, the guerrillas sent out 2 companies to meet up with the sniper to provide support. However, this group that was attacked first had arrived earlier as they were closer in the vicinity. As they had thought that victory was already secured. Once the guerrillas arrived, they would definitely immediately finish off this unknown company from Fortress 178. But in the end, they did not even get to see the shadows of their enemy before this first guerrilla company suffered casualties to half their forces. The remaining half were still fighting the brambles in a frenzy as they tried to escape the area controlled by the monstrous plants. But Ren Xiaosu would not give them the chance to do so. After he threw a few grenades at them through the shadow door, Crow Pass turned silent again. The sniper who was hiding behind the ridge was drenched in cold sweat. Were those brambles some sort of superpower? There were actually 2 supernatural beings in that company. Moreover, the enemy seemed to have expected the arrival of these guerrillas and laid an ambush for them. And the true purpose of the attack on the guerrillas was to lure him out. Fortunately, he reacted quickly, or else he would have died to that gunshot. The enemy sniper's marksmanship might not be great, but he was sufficiently treacherous. The Zone Consortium sniper could no longer remain composed. He could not even determine how many enemies there were in these mountains and how many supernatural beings were among them. He picked up his radio and called back to the headquarters at Buin River. Poison Wolf to HQ, requesting assistance. Su Xianchu of Fortress 178 has been discovered. I repeat, Su Xianchu of Fortress 178 has been discovered, and there's also the presence of another unknown supernatural being. One of the guerrilla companies has already been attacked. Please provide further assistance. The sniper did not dare to be overconfident anymore. He mentioned Su Xianchu's name as he was hoping that the command center at Buin River would send more troops to finish off the enemy in this mountain range. After Ren Xiaosu fired off his rifle, he moved off to another location. From the side of a hill, he quietly observed the brambles as the guerrillas battled them. As a matter of fact, he had placed more than a dozen brambles at that mountain pass, as well as over a dozen potato shooters. In the face of firearms, these plants actually turned out to be pretty useful. If the enemies did not have flamethrowers, it would be very difficult for them to kill the plants with bullets, especially the brambles with their blood-sucking ability that made them extremely lethal. They made the enemies lose their ability to resist in a short time. These plants were an essential item to bring on a trip to the wilderness and commit murder and arson with. Ren Xiaosu had already unlocked his second weapon, while the third weapon was still far in the future. So Ren Xiaosu loosened his purse strings and got more generous with his usage of the gratitude tokens in order to kill more enemies. After he got back, he would have to get Zhang Xiaoman and the others to help him earn back even more gratitude tokens. All in all, the benefits would be greater than the costs. In fact, only 20 gratitude tokens had been consumed in the destruction of this particular Zone Consortium company. When he led Zhang Xiaoman and the others to victory and headed back to base for their celebratory drinks, they could earn him a few hundred more gratitude tokens. Ren Xiaosu regretted that he didn't kill the Zone Consortium sniper this time. But that was all right. He still had time to slowly toy with him. It was very difficult to advance under the cover of the shrubs on a hillside while staying crouched. The shrubs growing here were at most half the height of a full-grown person, so remaining crouching for an extended period hurt his back badly. If it were the average person who was pursuing the opponent, they would probably expose themselves to the sniper very quickly. However, Ren Xiaosu was not the average person. That afternoon, Ren Xiaosu continued tracking the enemy sniper and headed east along the mountain range. By evening, just as Ren Xiaosu couldn't determine whether he was heading in the right direction, he suddenly saw some hardtack crumbs on the ground. Hardtack was a standardized food item in military field rations. It seemed like his opponent had replenished his energy at this spot. For something like hardtack crumbs, even the person eating the hardtack would generally find it very hard to notice them as they were tiny. This was the right direction. Ren Xiaosu crouched within the shrubs and looked around. He felt that he was very close to the sniper. As the sun went down behind the distant mountains, the last sliver of twilight turned from red to grey. The moment night fell, the sniper noticed a helmet moving at where he had scattered the hardtack crumbs earlier. He sneered. Did he have to shoot at the helmet? With a bang, a sniper bullet flew an unknown distance and towards the bottom right corner of the helmet. If someone were raising the helmet with their right hand, that person's body would have to be at the bottom right side of the helmet. It was very quiet in the mountains, but the sniper was too far away to determine from the feedback if he had hit the target or not. He asked on the comms channel, anyone lying in ambush in the vicinity heard the sound of a bullet hitting something. Heard a bullet hitting flesh, someone replied. We're about 300 meters away from the target and kinda heard it. The sniper said on the comms channel, then the target should have been hit. Go over and check it out. Roger that. Some guerrillas moved quietly towards the spot the sniper had shot at. A group of 120 soldiers from a guerrilla company was moving within the mountains. If one did not look carefully, they would not even notice the presence of this group. Buin River was considered a key strategic location. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many guerrillas hidden in this mountain range that led there. There would also definitely be more than one sniper lying in ambush. This mountain range was not the only route to get to Buin River, and most troops could not even pass through here, including the armored troops that were fitted with heavy firepower. But even so, the Zone Consortium was still being extra careful. The guerrilla company headed up the mountain to surround the identified target. The company commander said softly on the comms channel, "The enemy is a supernatural being, so it's very likely that he might not have died yet even though he's been shot. Make sure to be on guard. Second platoon will approach from 3 o'clock to prevent him from breaking through our encirclement. It's late at night. If he breaks through our encirclement, the other platoons are to immediately put on your night vision goggles." Even if the enemy might have been shot, the Zone Consortium's guerrilla company remained wary as they made their approach. However, as the guerrilla company gradually tightened the encirclement, the company commander suddenly saw a ham hock at the spot where the bullet supposedly hit. One of the guerrilla soldiers was stunned for a moment before asking on the comms channel, "Wait a minute, what's a pig's hindquarters doing here?" "It's a trap." The company commander shouted into the comms channel, "Retreat, retreat." However, it was too late for them to retreat. A second later, they discovered thin, red, thorny vines hidden within the shrubs coming for them. At the same time, a strange plant started shooting potatoes at them. What the fuck was this? The sniper listened in shock to his comrades' cries on the comms channel. He had already changed his ambush position with care. Through his scope, he once again saw the vines that looked like purgatory tentacles taking all life within its attack radius. The Zone Consortium sniper was really afraid now. He did not even dare lift his head as he crawled into the distance and fled. He needed to rendezvous with the main forces of the guerrillas as this was not an enemy he could deal with. That was 2 full companies that had perished. A total of 240 people died without knowing why they died. However, the sniper could not understand how his opponent had carried that ham hock up the mountain. Suddenly, grenades exploded behind him. The sniper was shaken. If grenades could be thrown at him, wouldn't it mean the enemy was really close? The sniper could feel despair in his heart, but he did not give up. Instead, he just continued crawling forward and even used a slope to expeditiously roll down the mountain. This time, Ren Xiaosu had won another small battle. The sniper had deliberately scattered some hardtack crumbs on the ground in an attempt to lure Ren Xiaosu in. However, Ren Xiaosu kept wondering why a sniper who had always been very cautious would suddenly drop some hardtack crumbs. So he felt that something was not right. That was why he had set a trap to counter that. However, Ren Xiaosu still regretted things. He was still very far away from the sniper and was unable to ascertain his exact location, so he simply threw 2 hand grenades through the shadow door in the general area. But unfortunately, he didn't blow up his opponent. Yang Xiaojun had said that snipers with an ego would sometimes insist on ending their opponent's lives on a battlefield by shooting them. But Ren Xiaosu did not have the least bit of ego and was only interested in killing his enemy. As for how to finish them off, the method was not that important. After all, he only had advanced firearms proficiency, so what was there to be proud of? As a soldier of the razor-sharp company, he just had to do it the most straightforward way. There was no need to care about how to achieve the objective. How did he end up as the person behind the massacre of the guerrilla companies when he was just trying to kill the sniper? If he continued hunting the sniper, would it mean that all the guerrillas in the entire mountain range were going to get wiped out? But the problem was that if he did not get rid of the sniper, the razor-sharp company behind him could not risk trekking through this mountain range. In fact, Ren Xiaosu knew it wasn't that the razor-sharp company could not do anything about the sniper. If they really decided to risk it all, how could a single sniper wipe out 180 people who were determined to charge forward? The sniper probably did not even have enough ammunition on him to achieve that. But it was just that this time, Ren Xiaosu was hoping that everyone from the razor-sharp company could return to the fortress alive. That was why he was so persistent in hunting down the sniper who was a threat. He even wiped out 2 entire companies of guerrillas in the process. As he continued moving east, Ren Xiaosu got a day's march ahead of the razor-sharp company behind him. But that did not really matter since he could slowly make his way back and find the razor-sharp company after he had killed the sniper. He was no longer particularly worried about that sniper anymore. The mental state of a soldier on the battlefield was not unbreakable. After the sniper had twice witnessed his comrades getting killed by the enormous brambles, he was on the verge of a mental breakdown. It was fortunate that he was a sniper, as having a strong mentality was always one of the key areas of training. As such, he could still keep his cool and continue fleeing. If a normal soldier had witnessed such a terrifying scene, they would be terrified. Many people who have not been in battle before would think there was no reason to be afraid of death. Even if their comrades were all dead, they would still fight to the bitter end. But in fact, when they saw their comrades dying one after another next to them, the fear of an unknown death approaching would suddenly envelop them and devour all of those heroic words. They would not even have the ability to think properly. This was what war was all about. So the mental fortitude of recruits was completely different from that of veterans who had been in battle before. Ren Xiaosu carefully followed the sniper. Even though he knew well that the sniper had already lost his will to resist, he was definitely not the only enemy hiding in this mountain range. After rolling down the slope, the sniper did not even care to check for cuts or fractures and just fled to the eastern base as quickly as he could. The sniper rifle he was carrying in his hands felt particularly heavy as well. The Zone Consortium sniper kept thinking about how to resolve his current predicament. He would definitely get summoned to a court-martial after he returned. He was the one who had called for reinforcements, and headquarters sent him 2 companies of guerrillas as requested. However, the guerrilla companies both encountered ambushes one after the other while he escaped alive. The military police would probably take him away to be interrogated once he returned to the military base to see if he might be a spy. To be honest, not even some spies could achieve what he did on the battlefield to such great effect. Even if the military police ended up discharging suspicions of him being a spy, he would still end up a target for criticism for dereliction of duty. His bright future was definitely gone. It was all over the moment he opened fire on that shadow. The sniper froze. While he was thinking about his situation, he seemed to have wandered into a clearing. This was a sniper's taboo. Even though the clearing only measured a short 5 meters in size. The sniper suddenly accelerated and bounded into the shrubs in front of him. But then he noticed a flash of light in the distance in his peripheral vision. The Zone Consortium sniper's heart sank. He felt a bullet passing through his abdomen, and the tremendous kinetic energy of the bullet surged through his body as his heart and lungs were torn to pieces. This was the power of a sniper rifle. It could kill people in an instant without needing to strike them in the head. But another sniper rifle boomed as well. Before the Zone Consortium sniper died, he showed a mysterious smile on his face. That was because he felt that someone would probably be taking revenge for him. Another sniper from the Zone Consortium had already arrived on the battlefield and confirmed Ren Xiaosu's position when he fired that shot just now. This was an arrangement he made with the other sniper. He would act as the bait to atone for his mistakes and deliberately walk into a clearing to lure the sniper from Fortress 178 into shooting him. As far as he could tell, his opponent's marksmanship was not that good. So he might still be able to survive if he moved quickly enough. This way, he wouldn't have to be summoned to court-martial when he got back to the stronghold. He was gambling. As long as they could finish off that sniper from Fortress 178, they would win the bet. The sniper was so strong mentally that he was still thinking about how to fight back even though he had already caused the deaths of 240 of his comrades. Unfortunately, the plan just barely failed. A few moments ago, Ren Xiaosu decisively pulled the trigger from his ambush point when he saw the Zone Consortium sniper exposing himself in the clearing. At the same time, the other sniper in the distant mountain also pulled his trigger. However, Ren Xiaosu had become really cautious now. He could not afford to be careless anymore after being given the lessons that others had sacrificed their lives to teach. Ren Xiaosu's position was exposed after he pulled the trigger, so he quickly grabbed his rifle and threw himself to the ground to his right from his initial crouching position. A sniper bullet grazed the skin on the outside of his left thigh and hit the dirt behind him. Ren Xiaosu could feel a burning sensation on his thigh. Even though the bullet had only grazed his skin, it tore through a fair bit of the muscle fibers in his left leg as well. But Ren Xiaosu had no time to care about that. Ever since he started using the steam locomotive and shadow clone, he had experienced so much pain that his nerves were now as tough as steel. Ren Xiaosu did not pause after falling to his right. Instead, he activated City Crusher once again and started a mad dash forward. The sniper continued firing shots at him. However, none of the bullets were able to hit the speedy Ren Xiaosu from a distance of over 1,000 meters. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. Ren Xiaosu kept his head on a swivel for the muzzle flashes in the distance as he ran. When watching for a sniper, you should not depend on the sound of the shots since light travels much faster. All of a sudden, he came to a stop and crouched like a statue. Then he raised his sniper rifle and took aim. Yang Xiaojun had told him before that there was no need to be afraid when a sniper fired off a few shots in succession. When a sniper was forced to keep shooting at a fast-moving target, they could no longer aim their shots accurately at a target from over 1,000 meters away by the fourth shot, because they had to adjust for the recoil. Ren Xiaosu knew well that the chance of survival he fought for would only last for a brief moment. As he inhaled, Ren Xiaosu heard only the sound of his own breathing around him. Yang Xiaojun said that upon pulling the trigger, the heart rate, body temperature, sweat glands, and all other parts of the body should serve the will. In that moment, you could only dominate others by dominating yourself first. Due to the hot and blazing afternoon sun, the crushed leaves Ren Xiaosu applied on his face had dried up. After he pulled the trigger, a pink mist erupted in the mountains in the distance. The mist seemed to form a rainbow in the shining sunlight. It was not that he could not endure the pain, but that his left leg was a little weak now since the muscle fibers were torn. No matter how strong his willpower was, he could not mend the muscle fibers in an instant. So it was still those same words. The most dangerous moment when walking a tightrope was always the last 3 steps. Only those who could finish those 3 steps would be qualified to walk on a tightrope. Ren Xiaosu had already exhausted quite a bit of his energy in this battle. Whether it be ambushing the guerrilla companies or outwitting the snipers, he had not encountered so many twists and turns before. In reality, his enemy was not an elite sniper. In Yang Xiaojun's words, there were no elite snipers in the entire Northwest, and none of them were a match for her. Besides, Ren Xiaosu was also not a schemer. He had only ever learned how to fight and hunt. In the past, his targets had always been mindless animals. But this time, he was hunting down someone who had a mind of their own. If a true hunter were here, they would probably have scoffed at Ren Xiaosu's efforts. For example, should he have risked his life after the enemy's third shot, should he have pursued the enemy this far, or did he actually have a chance to kill that sniper but didn't realize it? If Yang Xiaojun were present, she would probably think those snipers were extremely stupid and bad shots. But no matter what, Ren Xiaosu was still making progress and learning from his experiences. The deaths of his enemies were more important than anything else. Ren Xiaosu hid in the bushes behind the mountain ridge for a long time. He wanted to see if there would be a third sniper out there and how the Zone Consortium's guerrillas would react. After all, 2 snipers and 2 companies of guerrillas had perished here, so they couldn't possibly allow Ren Xiaosu and the others to get arrogant. But it was also possible that the guerrillas would simply give up on defending the Buin River when they saw their enemies were not to be trifled with. That was also a possibility, but it still depended mainly on how their opponent chose to react. After waiting for a long time, Ren Xiaosu did not see any more guerrillas getting sent here. It was as though they had given up on defending this mountain range. After some thought, Ren Xiaosu decided to head back and join up with the razor-sharp company first. He wondered what it was like at the rear now after he had been out here hunting the enemy for almost 2 days. All of a sudden, he saw a large number of troops heading straight for him from the north. Ren Xiaosu was shocked to discover they had not fucking given up on the mountain range yet. Instead, they had been taking some time to gather the troops to send a regiment directly into the mountain range. They were planning to wipe out their enemies in these mountains. They intended to surround him. He had overplayed his hand. They were actually sending a full regiment to go after one company? This was going overboard. Ren Xiaosu's head was starting to hurt. The razor-sharp company was still thinking about passing straight through here to get to the Buin River to blow up the bridge? How were they supposed to pass through now? He turned around and stooped low to make his escape. He had to get out of their perimeter first. While running away, Ren Xiaosu wondered if he could plant some brambles to kill some of the Zone Consortium soldiers. As there were too many of them, it would be unrealistic to wipe out the entire regiment. But it would be good enough if he could kill a portion of them. However, Ren Xiaosu realized the sniper might have already reported to his rear forces about the possibility of some terrifying plants being hidden within the shrubs when he sought reinforcements. As a result, the soldiers of the Zone Consortium's main troops did not even walk through the areas where shrubs were growing. They traversed the shady side of the slope where there was no vegetation while remaining extremely cautious. Moreover, Ren Xiaosu had noticed that some of the Zone Consortium soldiers were even carrying flamethrowers. With these around, the brambles would be rendered useless. A fire could wipe them all out. Even plants had their natural enemies. When he saw this, Ren Xiaosu thought he did not want to create any unnecessary trouble. So he ran all the way back to the other end of the mountain while limping. The Zone Consortium's commander at the Buin River seemed to be really outraged by all of this. He seemed extremely determined to kill Ren Xiaosu no matter what. While Ren Xiaosu was escaping, he realized these Zone Consortium soldiers always seemed to track down his exact location. Due to his injury, he was planning to shake off the Zone Consortium first before joining back up with the razor-sharp company. However, his plan was foiled. During his escape, he hid on a ridge and observed his pursuers. He was surprised to see a dozen-odd Zone Consortium soldiers holding leashes for several huge hounds. The hounds were so large they could drag people off by themselves. Even those well-built adult soldiers were unable to keep them under control with the leashes. Ren Xiaosu felt that these hounds could even be ridden as mounts. Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized it was the smell of blood. Due to his outer left thigh that had been grazed by the enemy sniper's bullet, an open wound had formed. It not only slowed him down a lot but also left behind a scent trail. Although he had already applied the black medicine onto the wound, that could not cover up the smell of blood. It seemed like that was the reason why the Zone Consortium soldiers were able to keep chasing after him. However, Ren Xiaosu did not have any better ideas to deal with these hounds. He could not just get rid of the smell by throwing away his blood-stained clothes. He could only try to find a stream and follow it all the way back to where the razor-sharp company was. But there was no such stream in the vicinity. By the next afternoon, the Zone Consortium soldiers let the hounds loose and allowed them to pursue Ren Xiaosu freely after realizing they still had not caught up with him after wasting so much time. This put Ren Xiaosu in a fix. Even though he was injured, he could still move faster than the Zone Consortium soldiers. But the hounds were different. These animals had also fucking mutated. The dozen-odd hounds did not have a single ounce of fat and could navigate through the mountains like they were moving on flat ground. Ren Xiaosu looked at the shadow clone in the palace. The shadow clone had still not returned to its original form. He really had to be careful not to let anything hit the shadow clone between its brows again in the future. He would have to prepare a helmet for it just in case. Seeing that the dozen hounds were getting closer, Ren Xiaosu made ready to fight. He would not be afraid of these hounds if not for the Zone Consortium's firepower at their rear. Ren Xiaosu would have to kill the hounds out here as he did not wish to lead the Zone Consortium to where the razor-sharp company was. But at this moment, he heard the rat-a-tat of a machine gun coming from the hills on both sides of Crow Pass. Ren Xiaosu even heard someone shout, "Ren Xiaosu, get over here. We'll cover you." He saw the razor-sharp company had already built a simple fortification on the hills on either side of Crow Pass. Fu Rao was shooting mercilessly at the hounds with a heavy machine gun he was wielding in his hands. In just a few seconds, he had already killed 6 or 7 of the hounds that were chasing after Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu heaved a sigh of relief. Was this what it felt like to have the support of comrades? When you needed to catch a breather, there would be someone standing behind you to shelter and protect you. What are you still standing there for? Get over here! Why are there so many fucking hounds chasing after you? Ren Xiaosu, how many enemies are pursuing you? Zhang Xiaoman lamented, where did you go? The members of the razor-sharp company were used to bragging all the time. So when Ren Xiaosu told them this shocking news, everyone thought that Ren Xiaosu was just boasting. Ren Xiaosu said, there are many more pursuers. We should retreat immediately. That won't do. Zhang Xiaoman laughed. Since you're so fearsome, surely our razor-sharp company can't hold you back, right? No matter how many enemies come today, we'll wipe them all out. Ren Xiaosu realized that Zhang Xiaoman and his men had prepared extensively here. It looked like they were fully ready to spring this ambush. Captain, Jiao Xiaochen suddenly said as he looked out into the distance, I think we better retreat. Zhang Xiaoman gazed at the large number of Zone Consortium soldiers in the distance. As they were still very far away, the soldiers looked just like ants. Zhang Xiaoman realized the Zone Consortium would not have sent so many soldiers to eliminate their enemies in the mountains if Ren Xiaosu had just been talking big. It looked like they were extremely determined to annihilate the advance guard of Fortress 178. Ren Xiaosu asked, why did y'all choose to set up the ambush here? Zhang Xiaoman replied, we were worried the situation would blow up and you would end up being pursued by the enemy, so we set up an ambush here with the intent of coming to your aid. But who would have thought the situation would get this serious? That's right. Jiao Xiaochen said, we were thinking that it would be great if you could kill the sniper. Once you achieved that, the guerrilla companies would definitely come after you. At that time, we would have stopped the enemy here at Crow Pass and killed them all. But who would have expected that you'd already kill the guerrilla companies and even managed to attract part of the Zone Consortium's main forces after you? Haha, you're too amazing. Zhang Xiaoman asked with concern, how's your injury? Don't worry, I've already applied the black medicine on it. Ren Xiaosu said, let's make our escape now. There's too many enemy troops out there. By this point, Fu Rao and the others had taken care of all the hounds. The razor-sharp company definitely couldn't handle so many Zone Consortium soldiers. So fleeing was their best option. However, Zhang Xiaoman changed his mind again and said, then what are we still hesitating for? Let's go. But we can't just run away like this. We have to pull off a big one against the Zone Consortium soldiers before we leave. Jiao Xiaochen, set your mortars up. Everyone, get ready and prepare for battle. Ren Xiaosu frowned. But there's too many enemies. Zhang Xiaoman said in seriousness, do you think they'll be carrying heavy weapons? They're just guerrillas, while mechanized infantry can't enter these mountains. So we're assured of victory since we're fighting them from high ground. They've already heard our machine guns. They won't charge up just to die, right? Ren Xiaosu asked. Can't you see that the commanding officer of those troops has already allowed emotion to rule his head? You've frustrated him. Zhang Xiaoman said with a smile, do you think that everyone can become legendary generals? The Zone Consortium has been holing up in the north all these years and never fought a decent battle. Their officers are still far from being able to deal with spontaneity on the battlefield. Don't think that every officer is a calm and intelligent person. If that were the case, there wouldn't have been so many stupid battles in history. Ren Xiaosu fell silent. Zhang Xiaoman said in amusement, Do you think I'm belittling the heroes of the world? No, this is called knowing ourselves and knowing the enemy. If it were the Qing Consortium instead of the Zone Consortium, Commander Zhang might not be so willing to send out troops to open up the trade routes. If these were the Qing Consortium's veterans, I would turn around right now and flee. But there's also the strong and the weak among the consortiums. There must be a reason why the Zone Consortium was shoved aside by the Qing Consortium and the Yang Consortium. It's not that we look down on them, but that they're incompetent. Realized dawned upon Ren Xiaosu that in the minds of these boorish men from Fortress 178, the Qing Consortium's troops were several times more capable than the Zone Consortium's troops. To them, only the Qing Consortium was seen as a truly difficult opponent. As though to confirm Zhang Xiaoman's assessment, the approaching Zone Consortium soldiers continued to obey their orders and advanced forward using the cover of the valley. They did so even though they knew that their enemy possessed heavy machine guns. They intended to wipe out the razor-sharp company with brute force. Zhang Xiaoman waited for the enemy to enter their range. Once they did, he immediately issued the order to fire. Together with Zhao Ziokan's 6 mortar units, they mercilessly bombarded the Zone Consortium troops. Although it was only a single attack wave, they nearly wiped out one of the Zone Consortium's companies that came charging towards them. Only then was the enemy jolted awake. The Zone Consortium troops retreated like the tide. At this moment, Zhang Xiaoman got up and packed his belongings. Let's quickly leave this place. The Zone Consortium's fucking mortars will be coming in soon. They should have adjusted the angle of their mortars by now. It'll be too late if we don't leave now. Ren Xiaosu was stunned by the sight. He had not said anything since Zhang Xiaoman's decision to stay and fight. But at this moment, Zhang Xiaoman was actually running faster than a rabbit after pulling off a big one. There were no signs of that lofty spirit and soaring determination he displayed earlier. Right after they retreated from the hill, the Zone Consortium's artillery fire plowed into where they just were. Zhang Xiaoman breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness we escaped fast enough. If not, we would have all died here. This time, we achieved great things. Including the companies Ren Xiaosu took out, we've defeated 3 companies of the Zone Consortium. Haha, that'll be worth another third-class unit citation after we return. Who knows, we might even be given a second-class unit citation this time. Ren Xiaosu asked, Captain, weren't you worried that they'd attack us with their mortars first? No, they couldn't determine our exact location at the start. Besides, they didn't have enough time to adjust the angle of the mortars, so they couldn't have hit us accurately. But Ren Xiaosu suddenly said in seriousness, Captain, although I don't know how well you know the Zone Consortium's troops, let's try not to underestimate them again in the future. What if shells rained down before we could make our escape? Wouldn't all of us have died? I really hope that we can all return alive. Everyone looked at Zhang Xiaoman. The razor-sharp company had always followed Zhang Xiaoman's orders as they braved the dangers on the battlefield. Even during their military exercises, he would specifically do the missions in the most dangerous way as a challenge to themselves. It was precisely such behavior that made outsiders refer to people from Fortress 178 as those damn fucks. Ren Xiaosu continued, I'm not questioning the captain's combat methods, but I just hope that we can exercise a little more caution. After all, we might end up dying if we encounter a brilliant opponent. Even if that's a 1 in a million chance, we still can't afford to take the gamble. Zhang Xiaoman remained silent for a moment before saying, all right, we'll do as you say. The razor-sharp company's soldiers around him were shocked. Others had tried to persuade Zhang Xiaoman, but he never once heeded their advice. What are y'all looking at? Zhang Xiaoman said unhappily, why is everyone staring at me? Am I that handsome? Retreat already. Since the Zone Consortium's mechanized infantry could not enter the mountains, they would not have to be afraid of their continued pursuit. The razor-sharp company could run faster than the Zone Consortium. Ren Xiaosu thought for a moment before saying, that's not really due to me. More importantly, we had to take out that sniper since we got pinned behind the rocks. It's not that we can't do anything to the snipers. We could have charged out from behind the rocks together. His effective range is probably around 1000 meters or so, but we have 6 HMGs whose effective range isn't any shorter than his weapon. Zhang Xiaoman said, "Why are so many snipers on the battlefield not given automatic sniper rifles? Is it because they don't want it? Of course not. It's every elite sniper's dream to be able to use a fully automatic sniper rifle. No matter how accurate a bolt-action rifle is, it's not as good as a full auto rifle on the battlefield. Even the best snipers are afraid of the HMGs operated by recruits. A long-range HMG with a tripod that can provide effective cover is a natural enemy of snipers. This was an ironclad rule formed from the sacrifice of countless lives on the battlefield. So some of the more decent snipers would not choose to fire continuous shots and left-right after carrying out a decapitation strike, the mark of a truly vicious sniper. Like the two snipers Ren Xiaosu had encountered. They were purely used for intercepting scouts who might try to infiltrate from this place. On the battlefield, snipers could be used in more than one way. Based on Zhang Xiaoman's original plan, the enemy sniper was hiding on the mountainside and trying to pin them down. But Zhang Xiaoman was willing to minimize their losses if need be. By charging out from behind cover, they could catch their enemy off guard. But a lot of people would be killed that way, Ren Xiaosu said. How can there be no casualties in war? It's just some people dying. What's there to be afraid of? Zhang Xiaoman chuckled. If I can die on the battlefield, that would be an honor. How can there be no casualties in war? This seemed to be the conventional wisdom that Zhang Xiaoman frequently uttered. However, that was where the problem lay. In his pursuit with the sniper, Ren Xiaosu decided to charge because he did not want anyone from the razor-sharp company to get killed. This was his obsession. His thinking may have been naive, but that was just how he thought. If someone from the razor-sharp company got killed, it was like he would be unworthy of protecting anything anymore. Zhang Xiaoman asked how there could be no casualties in war. To which Ren Xiaosu answered they wouldn't know if they didn't try. Regardless of what happened in the future, he had still managed to keep everyone alive this time. Zhang Xiaoman looked at Ren Xiaosu and said in a serious tone, "Don't just talk about me. You can't continue risking your life like that either. You only live once, so we can't keep letting you charge into battle like this." But Ren Xiaosu insisted, "I'll make sure that all of you survive." Zhang Xiaoman felt something was wrong. Why did it suddenly seem like Ren Xiaosu was the company commander instead of him? But now they were facing new problems. Since there was an error with the intel of the garrison forces in this mountain range, this route was no longer safe to take. However, they still had not completed the operation assigned to them by Zhou Yinglong to blow up the Buin Bridge. "Bring the map over and let's figure out an alternate path to the Buin River," Zhang Xiaoman said. "We're only 200 kilometers away from the Buin River now, so it's really frustrating that we can't get to it when it is right in front of us." Ren Xiaosu asked, "I've always been curious about something. This OP should have been done by recon, right? So why did they send our razor-sharp company?" Ren Xiaosu had been wondering about this for some time. In his opinion, the recon battalion should have been the ones responsible for infiltration, carrying out long-range raids, and bombing bridges. So why was the razor-sharp company made to do it this time? Even if Zhang Jinglan liked to order him around, he wouldn't have given such an illogical order, right? Zhang Xiaoman looked at Ren Xiaosu and explained, "Commander Zhou has already left the FOB with the rest of the forward strike battalion and headed northeast. From the looks of it, they'll pass through Shishuan village to join up with us, but the forward strike battalion suddenly changed their direction and advanced north after passing through Shishuan village. They plan to arrive at Mt Qianguan within 3 days and assault it." "Why?" Ren Xiaosu was puzzled. Mt Qianguan was not that far away from the Buin River. The mountain held a small base of the Zone Consortium, but it was extremely difficult to take due to the dangerous terrain. It could be regarded as an anchor in the vicinity of the Buin River, and the two locations had always closely supported each other. The Forward Strike Battalion and Razor Sharp Company have always been the advance guard of Fortress 178. The entire Forward Strike Battalion's march to the east is to create the false impression that Fortress 178's main forces are attacking the east. In that way, we can buy some time to build a pontoon bridge on the Blackstone River, Zhang Xiaoman said. Ren Xiaosu finally understood. Be it the Razor Sharp Company's operation to bomb the Buin Bridge, or the Forward Strike Battalion attacking Mt. Chiangguan, all of it was a feint to cover up the true strategy. They just had to play their part well on this grand stage. Ren Xiaosu suddenly thought of something. Did any of you see Su Xianchu at the FOB? Old Su? Zhang Xiaoman wondered. I don't think I saw him. He could still be stationed back at the fortress. After all, our military presence at the fortress is rather low now, so it's essential to keep some of our main forces garrisoned at the fortress. Ren Xiaosu got lost in thought. Would someone like Su Xianchu, who could make significant contributions on the front, be made to defend Fortress 178? He felt that Su Xianchu had been assigned on a different mission. At this moment, the radio man came running over carrying the radio set on his back and said, "Captain, the battalion commander would like to speak to you." When Zhang Xiaoman answered the call, he heard Zhou Yinglong ask, "What's the situation over there now?" Zhang Xiaoman reported, "There's a large number of Zong troops garrisoned within the mountain range leading towards the Buin River. We're trying to find alternate routes to pass through it and assessing whether there's a possibility of blowing up the Buin Bridge." Zhou Yinglong asked, "Were there any direct confrontations with them?" "You can say so." Zhang Xiaoman said, "Ren Xiaosu killed 2 of their guerrilla companies. We also laid an ambush and killed another of their companies, so they're just currently blind firing mortars at us. How about it, battalion commander? We ain't embarrassed you, yet. Maggot, don't you fucking get cocky." Zhou Yinglong was so angry he laughed. "Before our troops here could even get close to Mt. Chiangguan, the scouts reported back to us that Mt. Chiangguan sent out reinforcements to the Buin River. After your attack there, the Zone Consortium probably thought our main forces were deployed to the Buin River. Let's see how you shits are going to complete the OP now." Zhang Xiaoman was stunned before turning anxious. "Battalion commander, you should quickly start your attack on Mt. Chiangguan to lure the troops back there." "How the fuck am I supposed to lure them back?" Zhou Yinglong snapped. "We still have 2 days before we can get to Mt. Chiangguan. But thanks to y'all, we should have an easier time in our attack on Mt. Chiangguan." Zhang Xiaoman turned bitter. Orders were not to be taken lightly. Regardless of the situation, their objective was still to blow up the Buin Bridge. How were they supposed to launch their attack there now that enemy troops were concentrated at the Buin Bridge? "I'm sorry," Ren Xiaosu apologized as he glanced at the radio that was still transmitting. "It was all because of me that y'all are in this dilemma. Give all the TNT to me, I'll go and blow up the Buin Bridge by myself." Zhang Xiaoman winked at him and said, "Are you apologizing because you've wiped out 2 of their guerrilla companies and killed 2 snipers as well? Matter of fact, without you, we'd been surrounded by a regiment of the enemy. It's okay. We'll die together at worst. For the honor of Fortress 178, it's totally worth it." Zhou Yinglong had yet to stop transmitting. He roared, "Who are you putting on an act for when I haven't even hung up yet? What about dying together? Don't you feel embarrassed putting on such a heroic act? Quit acting already. Y'all will rest for the next 2 days. Once we attack Mt. Chiangguan and attract the troops back here, y'all will launch a breakthrough on the Buin River." No matter how capable their company was, they could not possibly fight against thousands of people with only 184 of them. Not even Ren Xiaosu could do that. Besides, they did not have that much ammunition to handle all those enemies either. As for Zhou Yinglong, he was not a rigid person. He knew the Razor Sharp Company had done good enough. One company annihilating 3 companies of the Zone Consortium's combat troops without suffering any injuries themselves was something unheard of in the entire military. Therefore, he ordered the Razor Sharp Company to find a safe place and regroup. The Razor Sharp Company would only continue advancing to break through at the Buin River after the Forward Strike Battalion drew the firepower of Mt. Chien Guan. Even though the Razor Sharp Company had gotten very far away from the mountain range, they still did not dare to set up a campfire. If the enemy's scouts discovered them and used their firepower to attack them, they would surely suffer heavy casualties. Zhang Xiaoman smiled mysteriously. He took out a small, silver flask and winked at the others. Since we have nothing better to do, shall we all drink a little? Ren Xiaosu was stunned. He had not expected Zhang Xiaoman to be so bold as to bring alcohol to the battlefield. Are you crazy? You can't drink now. We're in battle. This time, it was Zhang Xiaoman's turn to be stunned. Everyone would usually share the alcohol after he took it out, and that was that. But with Ren Xiaosu around, it was like someone was supervising them. Zhang Xiaoman got upset. I'm the company commander. Then go ahead and drink. Ren Xiaosu paused. If you take even a sip, I'll report you to the disciplinary committee. Zhang Xiaoman was speechless. We really can't drink right now. Ren Xiaosu said earnestly, we don't know when a bullet will come flying on the battlefield. Can you react in time if that happens? Ren Xiaosu didn't mind Zhang Xiaoman and the others drinking, but now was definitely not the time. He hoped to keep everyone in the Razor Sharp Company alive. So he could not afford to let things go wrong. As they conversed, Ren Xiaosu snatched the flask from Zhang Xiaoman's hands and stored it into his palace. I'll keep it for you for the time being. Then Ren Xiaosu went to relieve himself. Someone laughed and said, Ren Xiaosu behaves more like RCO. Someone else elbowed Zhang Xiaoman and said softly in a cheerful voice, Captain, you lost your temper if we didn't let you drink. Why were you so submissive this time? It's not like I can fucking beat him, can I? Zhang Xiaoman snapped. And what do you know? Have you forgotten who he is? He's Ren Xiaosu, the one Commander Zhang assigned to the Razor Sharp Company. So what? What do you mean so what? Zhang Xiaoman stared with eyes wide and said, by assigning him to the Razor Sharp Company, it's to show the entire army that he's qualified to be the next commander. Seeing how fearsome Ren Xiaosu is, he will definitely survive until the end of the war. Even if you say he's the heir of Fortress 178, that wouldn't be an exaggeration. Never mind that we used to pick on him. Now that we've realized how qualified he is, we have to accept it, understand? Everyone pondered that and found it quite reasonable. These gruff men from the northwest might be a wild bunch, but they were still sensible. The other fighting forces of Fortress 178 might not be convinced by Ren Xiaosu yet, but their Razor Sharp Company had accepted him already. Zhang Xiaoman already regarded Ren Xiaosu as the next commander. Why else would he show such humility to him? To be honest, I admire Ren Xiaosu from the bottom of my heart. Jiao Xiaochen said, he doesn't seem to have any problems except for being fond of people thanking him. It's no big deal saying thanks. Zhang Xiaoman chuckled and said, in this era, we should be happy that our lives can be saved in exchange for saying thank you. Since he likes to hear people thank him, let's just thank him more. Ren Xiaosu came back from relieving himself. When he heard their discussion, he sat down right next to Zhang Xiaoman. Then what are you waiting for? Why don't we start now? Zhang Xiaoman was speechless. Then, Fu Rao, who was in charge of nighttime surveillance, shouted on the communications channel, this is bad. Something terrible has happened. There's a large number of troops headed here from the south. They look like an independent regiment. Zhang Xiaoman immediately got up. Fortress 178 had not stationed any troops to the south. If these troops were coming from the south, they would definitely be enemies. He immediately asked, how far are they from our camp? The voice on the comms channel said. At most 3 kilometers away. What kind of troops are they? Are they from the Zone Consortium? Zhang Xiaoman asked with a frown. No, their logo is that of a white ginkgo leaf. Fu Rao said, it's the Qing Consortium's mechanized infantry. The Qing Consortium. Everyone was confused. Shouldn't the Qing Consortium and the Yang Consortium be fighting to the death in the south? Why would they suddenly have the strength to come and join the northern battlefield? Could it be that the Qing Consortium and the Zone Consortium had joined forces? The war between the Qing Consortium and the Yang Consortium was full-scale. All of Qing Zhen's plans had been carried out as more than half of the Yang Consortium's industries were destroyed. At the beginning, the Yang Consortium could rely on their ammunition reserves to fight the war. But after just 2 months, the entire Yang Consortium ended up passive. There was a shortage of ammunition at the front lines, while the strongholds that had not suffered from the war directly were also faced with a shortage of supplies. Qing Zhen was truly brilliant. By supporting the bandits in the north, he had shaken the Yang Consortium to its core at the lowest possible cost. He had really caught them by surprise. Zhang Xiaoman had said to Ren Xiaosu that if it were the Qing Consortium's troops they had encountered in the mountain range, he would have already fled. It would be difficult to say who would win when an entire regiment of infantry faced another regiment. But there was no doubt that a company would lose against a regiment even if both sides had similar capabilities. Therefore, an independent regiment from the Qing Consortium suddenly coming north didn't sound like good news. Only Ren Xiaosu was still sitting quietly next to the campfire. Zhang Xiaoman said, let's retreat towards Mt Jianguan and join up with Battalion Commander Zhou. We can't fight against this independent regiment from the Qing Consortium on our own. But Ren Xiaosu piped up, they might not be here to fight us. Are you crazy? Zhang Xiaoman said in shock. How can the Qing troops not be here to attack us when they suddenly appeared at a place so close to us? But Fu Rao suddenly said on the comms channel, wait a minute, Captain. Their mechanized infantry has stopped advancing. They've sent someone out to hoof it over to us. Ren Xiaosu sighed and stood up. They're probably here to look for me. Everyone from the Razor Sharp Company was stunned. You're saying that the Qing Consortium traveled all the way north in the middle of the night with such a massive turnout of mechanized infantry just because they're looking for you? Ren Xiaosu looked south and waited quietly. In reality, he was also unsure of the Qing Consortium's intentions until he saw Tang Zhou. When Ren Xiaosu saw Tang Zhou waved cheerfully at him. He also signaled to the other Razor Sharp Company soldiers to show that he was not armed. Ren Xiaosu said with a smile, you're really quite bold to come over here without any weapons. What's the point of carrying a weapon? Tang Zhou also smiled and replied, there are so many people here, and with you around, I'd still end up dead even if I had a weapon on me. Zhang Xiaoman and the others watched quietly from the sidelines. They realized that Ren Xiaosu seemed to be very familiar with this person from the Qing Consortium. Moreover, the way this Qing officer spoke also suggested he understood Ren Xiaosu very well and knew how fearsome he was. Isn't your Qing Consortium fighting a war in the south? Why have you suddenly come up here to the north? Ren Xiaosu asked. The soldiers of the Razor Sharp Company perked their ears up and listened. This was what they were most concerned about as well. Tang Zhou said, Boss Luo has received intel from his spy in the Zone Consortium. He knows you just won a battle against the Zone Consortium in the mountain range, so he sent me here to look for you. How does Fatty Luo know that I'm in the Razor Sharp Company? Ren Xiaosu asked in turn. Tang Zhou smiled but did not say anything. Ren Xiaosu immediately understood it to mean that the Qing Consortium also had spies in Fortress 178. It looked like Qing Zhen and Luolan had done quite a bit of prep work. Just comparing the intelligence gathering alone, Fortress 178's efforts were not as good as the Qing Consortium's. Getting back to the topic, Ren Xiaosu asked again, so what are y'all doing here? Mr. Qing Zhen believes you guys are here because you want to blow up the Buin Bridge. However, he said that there's more garrison troops stationed here than you think. He was worried that something would happen to you, so he sent us here to help, Tang Zhou said. Zhang Xiaoman felt a tingling sensation. When Ren Xiaosu went to war, he could even get outside support. What was the relationship between Ren Xiaosu and the Qing Consortium? The Qing Consortium was already engaged in a very tough war with the Yang Consortium in the south, but they were still willing to send some of their troops to support Ren Xiaosu. Importantly, it was the Qing Consortium's mechanized infantry that had come this time. They were a force that would come in handy if they were placed on the other front. Tang Zhou added, Boss Luo mentioned he wanted to send you a nice present to congratulate you on moving to your new home once you settled down at MT Kushui. However, he didn't expect that things would turn out this way. When Ren Xiaosu heard this, he felt a sharp pain in his heart. He took a deep breath and said, "And Boss Luo wanted me to ask you something on his behalf." Tang Zhou took a look at Ren Xiaosu's face and asked, "If he says that he didn't know anything about Zhong Cheng's attack on you, would you believe him?" The Qing Consortium did not have anyone inside MT Guan. We only had spies planted at MT Dingyuan. This had been troubling Ren Xiaosu ever since he discovered the Qing Consortium spy at MT Dingyuan. He would have liked to know if Luolan had known about this matter at that time, but there was no way to ask him that. Even if Luolan had known about it, he had no obligation to inform him. So Ren Xiaosu could not possibly seek an answer from him. Although he did not ask, Luolan took the initiative and had Tang Zhou bring this up with him. Luolan was hoping to eliminate any bad feelings on Ren Xiaosu's part by trying to be upfront about it. Ren Xiaosu said calmly, "I'd believe him." Since Luolan was so honest about it, there was no need for him to make things difficult. Tang Zhou continued, "Boss Luo said that you and him had scrapes of death together, and you also helped the Qing Consortium on more than one occasion. After our war with the Yang Consortium ends, he'll send someone to help you find your friends downstream. If Fortress 178 can't wipe out the Zone Consortium by then, he'll also come to the north to assist you." Nearby, Zhang Xiaoman said unhappily, "Who are you looking down on? Our Fortress 178 will definitely end the war earlier than y'all." Tang Zhou chuckled, "You don't have to yell at me." Those were Boss Luo's own words. Luolan was a very loyal fat man with a strong sense of brotherhood. Ren Xiaosu had quite an understanding of Luolan after having known him for so long. This was probably because Ren Xiaosu had saved Luolan's life. Therefore, the way they got along was always a little different. Although Luolan kept claiming that he had already repaid the favor, it was still something he kept close to his heart. Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked, "What about those troops you came with?" "Oh," Tang Zhou replied, "they're under orders from Mr. Qing Zhen to help you guys attack the Buin Bridge. You helped the Qing Consortium a great deal with what you did at position 313. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid that many of our soldiers would have died." Mr. Qing Zhen still thinks about that now. Zhang Xiaoman gasped. The Qing Consortium's mechanized infantry had suddenly left their southern front and headed north just so they could help Ren Xiaosu fight a battle? What the hell was with today? Was there something wrong with the world? Even though Zhang Xiaoman and the others knew that Ren Xiaosu was very strong, that was purely based on his combat strength. Putting aside his combat capabilities, his status shouldn't be that different from them since he was also a normal person. But what happened here tonight subverted their expectations. What happened to that refugee he claimed he was? Everyone knew that both Qing Zhen and Luolan were very influential in the south. It might seem rather easy to send a group of mechanized infantry to help attack the Buin Bridge, but if they really wanted to destroy the Buin Bridge, that effort could easily cost them tens of millions of yuan to achieve. Luolan was truly sincere about helping Ren Xiaosu. At the very least, he was spending cold hard cash to help. Actually, there had to be some intentions to stir up the situation in the north as well. The outcome of the war in the south would soon be decided, and some even assessed that the Qing Consortium would annex the entire Yang Consortium within half a year. If Fortress 178 or the Zone Consortium were to move to the south during this time, that would interfere with their plans and create many unnecessary problems. As such, the Qing Consortium wanted to speed up the progress of the war between Fortress 178 and the Zone Consortium to stir up the entire northwest and southwest. That way, no one party would have the energy to meddle in each other's affairs, which was probably what Qing Zhen wanted. But no matter what Qing Zhen's goal was, Ren Xiaosu would still appreciate his help. Anyone was a friend as long as they helped attack the Zone Consortium. Besides, Luo Lan was genuinely sincere in helping. After saying that, Tang Zhou prepared to bid farewell to Ren Xiaosu. "We can't stay here for too long. After we attack the Buin Bridge, we still have to return to the southern front. Mr. Qing Zhen only gave us a fortnight to accomplish this objective." Ren Xiaosu said, "Please give him my thanks. When this war is over, I'll definitely make a trip to Stronghold 111. It's good to hear you say that." Tang Zhou chuckled. "Well then, let's meet again at Stronghold 111. Then Tang Zhou turned around and left. Zhang Xiaoman finally reacted at this moment. "Hurry up and contact Commander Zhou. This is a big fucking deal." When they finally managed to put the call through, Zhou Yinglong's group was probably still on their night march. As such, he sounded a little impatient. "Didn't I tell you to reorganize yourselves at wherever you are? Don't tell me there's trouble again." "No," Zhang Xiaoman quickly explained. "A group of the Qing mechanized infantry suddenly appeared where we are and said that Qing Zhen and Luo Lan are offering to help Ren Xiaosu blow up the Buin Bridge. They're advancing towards the Buin River right now. What's more, they mentioned that Qing Zhen only gave them a fortnight to complete their objective. It seems to me that they'll be storming the target." Zhou Yinglong was confused by what he heard. What did this have anything to do with the Qing Consortium? What the hell was this? Just what kind of a person had Commander Zhang chosen to be his successor? Could he fucking be the chosen one? No wonder Commander Zhang chose him. Of course, Zhang Xiaoman also wondered if Commander Zhang had done so because he valued the close ties between Ren Xiaosu and the Qing Consortium. Then what are we going to do now? Zhang Xiaoman sat on the ground and pondered things. If the Qing Consortium helps us attack the Buin River, we won't have anything to do. Suddenly, the razor-sharp company became the idlest troops in all the southwestern and northwestern battlefields. They had to communicate this matter to Zhou Yinglong. As a result, Zhou Yinglong made a quick decision. He ordered the razor-sharp company to get to Mt Qianguan in 2 days and attack that defensive anchor point together with the rest of the forward strike battalion. They would coordinate a simultaneous attack with the Qing Consortium so that the Zone Consortium would be unable to react on this battlefront. As for whether the Qing Consortium could blow up the Buin Bridge or not, Fortress 178 had backup plans if the Qing troops failed. So there was no need for them to tag along with the Qing Consortium to the Buin River. Ren Xiaosu looked at the translucent shadow clone in the palace and said, "Can we leave a day later?" Zhang Xiaoman estimated the time. "No, we're still more than 100 clicks away from Mount Qianguan. Even if we force-marched, we'd just barely make it there in 2 days. Under normal circumstances, the average distance that troops could cover while marching with a heavy load was around 50 km per day. If they force-marched, they could travel at a speed of 10 km per hour. However, they would not be able to move that fast as they had to carry a pack that weighed more than 30 kg each while maintaining their stamina." Ren Xiaosu thought for a moment and said, "All right then, let's just be pretty cautious during the journey." Without the shadow clone leading the way, the risk factor would increase greatly. He was hoping that they could wait until the shadow clone had returned to its original state before they set off again. But Zhang Xiaoman would definitely not listen to him. Military orders could not be disobeyed. The next morning, the razor-sharp company set off towards Mt Qianguan in the northwestern direction. On their way there, Zhang Xiaoman did not drop his guard once. The three best soldiers, Fu Rao, Lin Ping'an, and Ren Xiaosu would constantly take turns to be the point man to scout ahead. When Ren Xiaosu saw that Zhang Xiaoman was taking the situation seriously, he finally felt at ease. He even volunteered to be on point for longer, walking in front of the formation for 2/3 of the time. Ren Xiaosu said he was fine with being on point throughout their march. But Zhang Xiaoman and the others disagreed, saying that there was no reason why he should be handling it all by himself. Since they were comrades, they could not let him bear the risk alone. At noon, Fu Rao had just moved to the front of the formation to take point when Ren Xiaosu heard a gunshot in the mountain pass ahead of them. What followed was a cry of pain from Fu Rao. He was stunned for a moment before he heard Zhang Xiaoman yelling at them to go prone. Find a place to take cover. There's enemies in the mountain pass. The company went prone and could see Fu Rao lying on the ground in the mountain pass with his abdomen bleeding. He shouted, "It's not an ambush. It's an encounter. Our enemy is an entire company, leave me." Ren Xiaosu watched silently as the scene unfolded. Encounters were all too common in war, but they were a little unfortunate. When they encountered the enemy in this mountain pass, they could see Fu Rao ahead of them but not the enemy hiding in the pass. Zhang Xiaoman whispered, "An encounter implies that the enemy didn't expect to see us here either. It seems that these troops were thinking of detoring to get to the rear of our forward strike battalion." Some of the troops at Mt Chienguan got deployed to the Buin River as reinforcements, but Fortress 178 didn't know if all of them had really gone there. Bang! Another shot rang out from the pass. The enemy that was hiding behind the ridge shot at Fu Rao again. The enemy was guarding the narrow terrain of the pass. If anyone rushed over to save him, they would also get shot. However, the enemy was more worried that their opponents would not rush over to save their comrade. As such, they decided to slowly torture Fu Rao in an attempt to lure the razor-sharp company into charging forward. But Fu Rao was very tough too. He knew what he was facing. So he did not even whimper when the second shot hit him in the leg. "Don't worry about me. Contact the forward strike battalion and surround them." Fu Rao roared. Ren Xiaosu wanted to throw a grenade at the enemy. But if the enemy discovered that there was a supernatural being here after the first grenade dropped, they might kill Fu Rao immediately and retreat in haste. The razor-sharp company could definitely win this encounter with Ren Xiaosu, but Fu Rao would die. Ren Xiaosu got up and slowly made his way towards Fu Rao through the mountainous terrain. Zhang Xiaoman said anxiously, "This is the enemy's plan. We can't fall for it. You and I are soldiers now, and Fu Rao knows what he needs to do. Everyone should also know that if I were the one laying on the ground, I wouldn't want y'all to rescue me either." Ren Xiaosu looked back at Zhang Xiaoman and said calmly, "I already said no man left behind." Zhang Xiaoman looked at Ren Xiaosu in shock. He suddenly felt faith burning inside him. He saw Ren Xiaosu's pupils turn crimson again, the depths of his eyes swirling with magma. Ren Xiaosu started running fast as a cheetah. Meanwhile, Ren Xiaosu's words were still echoing in Zhang Xiaoman's mind. Zhang Jinglan had said to Ren Xiaosu, "Life should be a candle, burning brightly from tip to end." The dark world was about to crumble. But before it truly crumbled, that flame should not be extinguished. And that was what Ren Xiaosu was obsessed with. Zhang Xiaoman lowered his voice and said, "If Ren Xiaosu successfully gets to him, block off the opening at the pass, and don't let the enemy seize the chance to shoot at them." Ren Xiaosu bounded out. The entrance of the pass was an open door, while the mountainous terrain were the walls next to it. When Ren Xiaosu leaped across the 4-meter-wide door along the wall, it felt like his entire body had flown across at a low altitude. While flying in midair, Ren Xiaosu grabbed Fu Rao's arm and used the momentum to pull him away from the door. When the Zone Consortium soldiers saw Ren Xiaosu's figure, they started firing wildly at him. However, they couldn't pull their triggers quicker than it took Ren Xiaosu to get to Fu Rao. But in the instant Ren Xiaosu flew across the entrance, he identified the enemy's position. Before he landed back on the ground, he threw out 3 grenades at the enemy. Zhang Xiaoman shouted, "Charge! Show them no mercy! Where are the medics? Get over there and save them!" The moment Ren Xiaosu dropped back to the ground, he laid Fu Rao flat. Due to the inertia of the rescue, he had dislocated Fu Rao's arm. Ren Xiaosu said to Fu Rao, "I'm sorry. It was difficult to control my strength." Fu Rao laughed dryly and said, "Why the fuck are you talking about strength control? It's great that I don't have to die. Where's the medic? Get over here. I feel like I can still be saved." Ren Xiaosu said to the medic who rushed over, "Extract the bullets first, then use the black medicine that I gave you and apply it on his wounds." Once he finished speaking, he took the lead and charged at the mountain pass. In the earlier situation, everyone knew the best option for the razor-sharp company was to let Fu Rao die a swift death before they avenged him. If it were the past, everyone would definitely have done the same if they were stuck in a similar impasse. Zhang Xiaoman looked at the way Fu Rao was moving and scolded, "Your dislocated arm has been reattached, hey? You're all good again now, hey? Lie down and get some rest already. Brothers, set up the stretcher for him. You better fucking lie on the stretcher obediently till you've recovered from your injuries." His face pale, Fu Rao said to Ren Xiaosu, "Thank you. Gratitude received from Fu Rao, +1. These words of gratitude were worth a great deal because it was given for a truly life-saving act. Ren Xiaosu smiled and told Fu Rao to get well soon. After that, he went to the medics to get his wound bandaged as well. Ren Xiaosu had also been shot in the shoulder when he sprinted out during the skirmish. However, Ren Xiaosu knew that it would take at most 3 days for this type of injury to be completely healed by the black medicine. While the medic bandaged Ren Xiaosu's wound, he said in surprise, "Ren Xiaosu, your muscles so strong that the bullet only penetrated an inch." Everyone gathered around Ren Xiaosu and looked at his wound with curiosity. "Wow, is your skin bronze and bones steel?" Zhang Xiaoman was sitting cross-legged on the ground next to Fu Rao. Rather than going over to look at Ren Xiaosu's wound, he was thinking about something else with his head lowered. Fu Rao looked at Zhang Xiaoman and asked, "Captain, what's on your mind?" "Nothing much." Zhang Xiaoman said softly, "Before I set off for the war, I told my wife that I might not make it back this time. After all, we know just how dangerous it is in our razor-sharp company. So I made it clear to her in advance so she wouldn't get too upset." Fu Rao did not say anything and listened to Zhang Xiaoman talk to himself. The people in Fortress 178 have had this thinking since childhood that it's some kind of honor to die in battle. But if we really had a choice, who'd be willing to die in a god's forsaken place like this? Don't you think? Fu Rao kept quiet for a moment before saying, "Who wants to die? We can't die even if we want to now." Zhang Xiaoman said with a helpless smile, "A lunatic has suddenly appeared on the battlefield saying he'll make sure that all of us survive and won't leave a man behind. What a fucking lunatic." Zhang Xiaoman would be turning 30 this year. He had lived in Fortress 178 for 27 years and spent 3 years assigned to an outpost outside of the fortress. His days at the outpost were very difficult. He had neither any communication nor entertainment to speak of, and the weather was also very cold all year round due to the outpost being situated at a high altitude, making it rare for him to perspire. To prevent the soldiers from developing renal failure, they did their physical training around a stove just so they would sweat. During fall, winter, and spring, they couldn't even drink water since it froze into ice. Their comrades on sentry duty had to chew on ice if they wanted to have a drink of water. A decade of hardship, yet their dreams remained. Most people probably never understood just how miserable it was to chew on ice. Zhang Xiaoman was prepared to die when he set off for this war. Just as he had said, how can there be no casualties in war? When a soldier died in battle, his comrades would knock out one of his teeth and bring it back to Fortress 178 to place below the copper bell if their bodies couldn't be brought back for burial. In that sense, it would be regarded as bringing their dead comrades back home. This was so their souls could return to their hometown. All of the veterans said that the fallen of Fortress 178 would watch over them whenever the copper bell rang. But it was a little strange this time. A lunatic had sprung out of nowhere and claimed he would bring all of them back home alive. Only a lunatic would say and do something like that, right? Zhang Xiaoman asked Fu Rao. Fu Rao said calmly, but I like this lunatic. I'm not only glad but also feel honored to be his comrade. You feel honored? He'll be the commander of our Fortress 178 in the future. And right now, you and I are both witnessing history get made. After some reorganization, Zhang Xiaoman led everyone back to the place where the battle had broken out. He thought for a while and said, listen, we might encounter even more of the zone troops on our way to Mt Qianguan. Why don't we change into these dead soldiers' uniforms and pretend we're a zone company? Ren Xiaosu rolled his eyes. What if Battalion Commander Zhou's forward strike battalion encounters us and strikes us down in one shot? Zhang Xiaoman was left speechless for a moment. We can just take a detour and not run into him, can't we? But there are a lot of bullet holes and bloodstains on the dead's uniforms. If you pretend to be a defeated company, it might not be obvious at first glance, but any observant person will wonder why you can still fucking move and jump around after getting shot in the chest. Jiao Xiaochen said in a speechless manner, Captain, can you stop fantasizing? Also, wouldn't they recognize their comrades? Zhang Xiaoman analyzed, look here, see if my analysis is correct. The Zone Consortium claims to have more than 200,000 soldiers. Are you sure they'll recognize each other when they bump into one another on the road? For our troops at Fortress 178, we all live in the same stronghold for most of the year and can't avoid seeing one another. Even if we don't know everyone, we'll still look familiar to each other. But their soldiers are normally scattered across a dozen strongholds, so it'd be natural if they don't know the others since they're only being mobilized for the war. Everyone looked to Ren Xiaosu. Zhang Xiaoman's face darkened. I'm the fucking captain here, so why are all of you looking at Ren Xiaosu when I'm the decision maker? Are the words of a private more effective than mine? Ren Xiaosu said in seriousness to Zhang Xiaoman, it really won't work. Okay, Zhang Xiaoman replied. Jiao Xiaochen piped up, after wiping out 4 enemy companies in this battle, we still haven't suffered any casualties yet. Not even the recon battalion's pathetic flying eagles are capable of that. The razor-sharp company of the forward strike battalion and the flying eagle company of the reconnaissance battalion had always been at odds with one another. The top 10 competitors of the military combat tournaments were always from the Flying Eagle Company. They were accurate marksmen, well versed in combat, knew many skills, and even had snipers within their ranks. To them, the razor-sharp company was just a group of thugs who resorted to more unconventional methods while they were the real elites. Meanwhile, from the razor-sharp company's point of view, they were the ones who could fight and win tough battles. If the two sides encountered each other in a military exercise, they were destined to be rivals. Of course, they both won some and lost some. The razor-sharp company had won 30% of the time while the Flying Eagle company won the other 70% of the time. Now that they had achieved such great success, they had definitely outperformed the Flying Eagle company. Zhang Xiaoman suddenly said, I've always disliked the Flying Eagles. They don't call each other by their real names in the bases and use code names instead. What the hell is up with that pretentious act? Then my code name will be Screw the Zone Consortium. Fu Rao, you look like you're in a vegetative state lying on the stretcher, so you can be called vegetable. Fu Rao was instantly enraged while lying on the stretcher. Why should I be called vegetable? I'm totally fine. Since you claim to be fine, show us that you can walk by yourself. Fu Rao was speechless. These gruff men from the northwest started laughing. Just half a day before, Fu Rao was dramatically calling out to be left there to die while Ren Xiaosu insisted on saving him. But half a day later, they were back to bantering with one another. Perhaps this was what comrades were. At this moment, everyone looked at Ren Xiaosu and asked, "Xiaosu, what's your code name?" Ren Xiaosu thought for a moment and said with a smile, "My code name is Thanks. You can just call me Thanks from now on." Fu Rao and Zhang Xiaoman were confused. Everyone realized that Ren Xiaosu would really resort to anything just to make them thank him. Ren Xiaosu was the one who suggested giving themselves code names. But actually, he was waiting for them to take the bait. Meanwhile, Ren Xiaosu was so happy that it felt like he was in a dream. If so many people called him that every day, wouldn't he harvest a huge number of gratitude tokens soon? Ren Xiaosu looked at the others. "I'm still a little unfamiliar with the code name I gave to myself. Why don't you all call me it a few more times so I can get used to it?" However, Zhang Xiaoman and the others turned around and left, ignoring him. "Hey, is that how you treat your comrade? What's the big deal with calling me by my code name? Hey, say my code name." And so, the plan to assign everyone in the Razor Sharp Company a code name died off just like that. But before the Razor Sharp Company could advance any further north, they received another new order from Zhou Yinglong. This time, Zhou Yinglong wanted them to infiltrate from the rear of Mt Qianguan to destroy the ferries in the harbour there. A tributary of the Buin River was north of Mt Qianguan. By destroying the harbour, they could prevent any defeated troops from leaving by the river after Mt Qianguan got captured. Since they intended to win the war, they could not allow the enemy to have a chance to regain their effective strength. Upon receiving this order, Zhang Xiaoman and the others could not rest anymore. They immediately infiltrated from the east side of Mt Qianguan and arrived at a destination about 10 kilometers east of the harbour within a day and a half. At this moment, artillery was booming from Mt Qianguan. Supposedly, the forward strike battalion and some reinforcements who arrived there later had been attacking the place for 2 days. But based on Zhou Yinglong's estimations, it seemed like the enemy was still going to put up a fight for another week before capitulating. Therefore, Zhou Yinglong ordered the Razor Sharp Company to destroy the Zone Consortium's route of retreat in advance. Zhang Xiaoman was watching the garrison forces at the harbour through his binoculars from a hill. "I guess most of the troops have gone to join the battle, so there's only one company stationed here now. Something also looks a little strange. Look, they're loading some stuff onto the ferries. I wonder what they're moving. If it's only one company, they'll be easy to attack," Ren Xiaosu said. Currently, the Razor Sharp Company did not regard any enemy troops of the same tactical grouping as a threat. Zhang Xiaoman said, "It's better to attack them sooner rather than later, so let's do it now. After we take the harbour, we'll retreat immediately and join up with Battalion Commander Zhou." They were going to conduct the operation immediately. The garrison troops at the harbour seemed to be moving around in a hurry. The soldiers were loading stuff onto the ferries with all their might with their guns slung over their shoulders. There were 7 medium-sized ferries docked at the harbour. When Ren Xiaosu and his company appeared, the Zone Consortium soldiers were all shocked. Before they could organize any effective resistance, the entire company was blown apart by Ren Xiaosu. But all of a sudden, the radio man at the rear shouted, "Captain, Battalion Commander Zhou wants to speak with you." After instructing Ren Xiaosu and the others to blow up the ferries, Zhang Xiaoman walked over with a bewildered look. Weren't they in the middle of a battle? Why would they radio him at a time like this? When he answered the call, he heard Zhou Yinglong shout, "Where are you right now? Have you arrived at the harbour?" Zhang Xiaoman said proudly, "We didn't fail. We've already captured the harbour. We're blowing up the ferries right now." Zhou Yinglong's voice cracked as he shouted, "Hurry up and retreat! All of you, retreat now!" Zhang Xiaoman was stunned. "Why? Did y'all lose the battle?" "It's not that we lost the battle, but that all the enemy positions at Mt Qianguan have been abandoned. Those bastards of the Zone Consortium took advantage of the moment we temporarily withdrew from the mountain and escaped. They only left some soldiers behind to cover for them. The main forces are probably heading towards you as we speak. Zhou Yinglong shouted. Zhang Xiaoman felt his scalp tingle. Zhou Yinglong, fuck your grandpa. Why didn't you say so earlier? Then Zhang Xiaoman disconnected and shouted, pack everything and retreat. But just as he finished speaking, everyone heard chaotic screaming erupt. No one could have fucking expected this. Didn't they say it would still take another week for the enemy at Mt. Qianguan to capitulate? So why were they retreating in advance? What they did not know was that the Qing Consortium's mechanized infantry in the northeast had already blitzkrieged the Buin River and captured the position by storm. The garrison troops at Mt. Qianguan started panicking because of this. They did not know whether the Qing Consortium would turn their sights to them after they were done attacking the Buin River. Meanwhile, the Zone Consortium's headquarters wondered what the Qing Consortium was up to. Were they going to join in the conflict and start a full-scale war against the Zone Consortium, or would they leave after pulling off that attack? They did not want to end up becoming the next Li Consortium. Didn't the Li Consortium get wiped out like this? Therefore, the Zone Consortium decided to draw back all of their defensive lines and see what the Qing Consortium was up to. However, this made life difficult for the razor-sharp company. It was too late for them to get away now. Several loud explosions boomed at this moment as Zhang Xiaoman turned around and saw Ren Xiaosu and the rest of the razor-sharp company throwing TNT into the cabins of the ferries. 6 of the ferries had already turned into massive fireballs and were burning so fiercely that the surface of the river resembled a fiery cloud. Zhang Xiaoman said in a panic, "Stop, stop blowing them up. We have to fucking keep one for ourselves." The garrison troops of Mt. Qianguan had almost reached the harbour. When Ren Xiaosu saw that there was at least 1 battalion of soldiers making their way over, he asked, "What's the matter? Get on board. We're gonna escape on a ferry." Zhang Xiaoman roared. The razor-sharp company had only this path of escape left. All the other routes were blocked by the Zone Consortium soldiers who were retreating from Mt. Qianguan. The Zone Consortium soldiers in the distance sank into despair when they saw that the ferries had all been blown. Someone picked up a heavy machine gun and fired at the ferry that Ren Xiaosu and company were on. Fortunately, the powerful recoil sent most of the bullets flying up into the air, only managing to hit 1 person from the razor-sharp company. Zhang Xiaoman shouted on the ferry, "Do any of you know how to drive this? We don't have anything like this in the vicinity of Fortress 178, so of course we don't know how to drive it," Jiao Xiaochen muttered. Zhang Xiaoman crawled towards the cabin and said, "We have to get this running even if we don't know how. If the ferry doesn't move, we're all gonna die. I'm also very desperate." Jiao Xiaochen looked at the person who said that and responded unhappily, "Hindsight's 20/20. Were we even thinking of getting away on the ferry? Aren't we only doing this because we got cornered in the harbour?" Everyone was frantically pressing random buttons. As a result, someone tripped off something on a fluke, and the engine started running. Everyone got excited. "The engine's going! We're saved, ha ha ha! Heaven hasn't forsaken our razor-sharp company after all." But at this moment, someone said curiously, "But the ferry still isn't moving." Then everyone saw Ren Xiaosu dash out of the cabin. Zhang Xiaoman shouted at him, "Don't go out there. The fucking enemies are everywhere outside. There's a rope tying the ferry to the dock that has to be cut off," Ren Xiaosu said. "Even so, you still can't go outside. You will be killed in the crossfire if you step out there like this." Zhang Xiaoman roared. Ren Xiaosu got an idea. He took out his saber and activated Shadow Door to reach the mooring line. But as Ren Xiaosu was unsure of where the rope was exactly, he started slashing randomly at the area. The Zone Consortium soldiers who were running towards the harbour were stunned when they saw a hand appear out of thin air and slash a black saber around. For a moment, they were so stunned they were even afraid to charge forward. "Hey, it's moving! The ferry's moving!" Zhang Xiaoman exclaimed. Ren Xiaosu had finally managed to cut the mooring line. The Zone Consortium's deserters could only watch with a forlorn expression as the Bulathol-riddled ferry started moving slowly towards the middle of the river. When they got a little farther, Ren Xiaosu and the others finally came out of the cabin. They watched helplessly as they got farther away from the shore. As they watched, they even puked their guts out. No one in the razor-sharp company had been on a ferry before. Therefore, even though the ferry had only been moving for a dozen minutes, the troops were already puking so hard they nearly fainted. Those who wanted to take the ferry did not make it aboard, while those who did not want to take the ferry were now drifting on it to some unknown destination. The soldiers of the razor-sharp company looked at their dejected enemies on the shore and thought to themselves, "What can we do? We're also very desperate." At this moment, the razor-sharp company heard a choking sound as the ferry's engine grew weaker. Zhang Xiaoman asked, "What the fuck is happening?" "I dunno," the ferry was gradually losing power, and it seemed like it had been damaged when the enemy was firing that heavy machine gun at it. "What fucking luck!" Zhang Xiaoman did not know whether to laugh or cry. He mumbled something unintelligible as he continued puking on the deck. "Quickly contact Medallion Commander Zhou and have him come and rescue us." But the radio man replied meekly, "Captain, our radio has been damaged." "What?" Zhang Xiaoman's eyes widened. "That radio is a weapon with the same value as your life. How could you let it get damaged? Do you think I won't boot you into the river?" At this moment, everyone turned around and looked at the radio man. The radio set he was carrying on his back was utterly shattered. The radio man said in dismay, "When the enemy was shooting at us with the heavy machine gun from shore, I was in a hurry to get aboard and allowed the radio to be hit." Zhang Xiaoman sighed. "Forget it, the radio probably saved your life. It's good that you aren't dead." The razor-sharp company's troops sat on the deck and looked around in hopelessness. No one knew where the powerless ferry was going to take them. Now that even the radio set was damaged, they had truly become an isolated fighting force of. They could not contact the main forces of Fortress 178, and neither could Fortress 178 contact them. "Will we end up drifting to the Zone Consortium's territory like this?" Jiao Xiaochen asked softly. "Can you stop saying such depressing things?" Zhang Xiaoman suddenly smiled. "That's why they say that unexpected events can happen all the time on the battlefield. Do you remember what I used to say? Everything lies with fate, and no one has any control over it. No matter how many battles you've won in the past, fate will still deal you a bad hand if it really wants to. And sometimes, it can be extremely strange as well. It will seem like fate is hell-bent on fighting you and not others. Too many unexpected things could happen in war. People even used to say that 30% of a victory in war was determined by tactics and strength. The remaining 70% was dependent on whether God wanted to keep you alive and let you win the battles." After puking for the longest time, the razor-sharp company's troops were getting hungry. However, they had already left the forward operating base for some time and had only brought along 7 days' worth of field rations with them. They did not have many provisions left. Zhang Xiaoman led his men to search for supplies in the cabin but later realized it was completely bare. He asked in a startled manner, "Didn't we see the Zone Consortium's garrison troops loading stuff onto the ferries? Why isn't there anything here? I don't think they had enough time to load anything onto this ferry." When he heard that, Zhang Xiaoman said angrily, "Look at you guys. Couldn't you have searched the ferries for supplies before deciding which ones to blow up?" Ren Xiaosu and the others laughed. "Captain, you didn't tell us you wanted to leave one untouched. Weren't we told to blow up everything?" Turning around, Zhang Xiaoman started preparing the razor-sharp company for worse. "Everyone, we don't have many rations left, and we don't know when we can reach shore. So for those of you who are seasick, stop throwing up. Even if you feel like throwing up, you should hold it in." Ren Xiaosu was standing on the deck of the ferry. He did not feel nauseous at all and was looking out at the vast Buin River covered in mist. Zhang Xiaoman walked next to him and asked, "What are you thinking about?" "About where we'll end up drifting to," Ren Xiaosu said. Zhang Xiaoman sighed and said, "We have no way to ask for help now, and we can't determine where we're heading. Who knows what we'll encounter next? If we drift towards the northern shore, that'll be the Zone Consortium's territory." But the more they feared it, the likelier it would happen. The ferry was still drifting in the middle of the river, but they were clearly getting closer and closer to the Zone Consortium's territory in the north based on reference points on both sides of the shore. "Don't worry," Ren Xiaosu said. "I will make sure everyone survives and that no man gets left behind." After he said that, Ren Xiaosu turned around and walked back into the cabin. The razor-sharp company's troops watched as though magic were being performed as he threw out a wild boar, a goat, a box of hardtack, and a large box of bottled water from inside the cabin. This was what Xiao had prepared for him back when she found out that he could carry a lot of supplies with him. He had already spent the money to add a vacuum preservation function for his storage space, so these things would not turn bad no matter how long they were stored in it. Ren Xiaosu said to his comrades of the razor-sharp company, "I reckon we'll run aground on the northern shore within 3 days. If y'all don't want to die, you should preserve your strength. We'll have to fight our way out when we get to the Zone Consortium's territory." Zhou Yinglong had already reported to Zhang Jinglan that the razor-sharp company had been forced to board a ferry to escape. Meanwhile, Zhang Jinglan locked down this news in case the Zone Consortium organized their forces to go and capture them.